the most realistic online racing sim ever made. This is iRacing. Detailed laser scan tracks, fully dynamic real-world cars, and over 50 series to choose from. 6 online world championships offering over $100,000 in annual prizes. This is the original esport racing game. This is iRacing.
And welcome, race fans, to round number 12. Immediately, I noticed my graphic was wrong, of the 2020 Karts Computers Racing Series season at Mazda WeatherTech Raceway, Laguna, Seca, for the first round of our playoffs for this season of the Karts Computers Racing Series. The playoffs, of course, to determine our second ever champion, season 1's champion, being Mr. Logan Pax, after winning a dominant 6 of last season's 10 races. But yes, tonight we come to you from the Laguna Seca Raceway in, well, California somewhere. I'm genuinely forgetting where. But the virtual version that is, I would say, arguably one of the trickiest tracks on all of iRacing, which makes it only fitting that it is the final road course of our season here in the Karts Computers Racing Series season. We end off our season with 2 back-to-back ovals, those being Daytona and Darlington, both of which are very, very different from each other, I must say. But really, this will have interesting championship implications, because when you think about it, all of our championship drivers left in the final 6, or I guess the final 4, as I'll explain momentarily, our final 6 drivers are all coming from very different backgrounds in terms of their experience. You know, some guys having much more proficiency when it comes to the road courses, some when it comes to the ovals. But seeing as, Michael Krobacher, All-Star Race winner, how he picked a specifically, oval specialist geared, fuel mileage kind of track, tire management kind of track at Darlington. This is kind of the last opportunity for some of our, road course guys to kind of hold out and do their very best to come away with a good finish here. And, I will give absolute credit to guys like, Michael Krobach, who throughout the course of the season have kind of evolved from guys who were mainly, oval based to guys that could keep up with guys at the road courses. And I mean, judging by practice, there are a couple top guys that are going to, hopefully, I should say they're going to likely find success tonight, as they have been running quick times in practice. But, I would say tonight it's one of those tracks that is so difficult that even for the top guys who are most practiced, most ready to put in a good performance, there's still always the possibility of a late race incident. And, those can always throw things into jeopardy. So it's a wonderful track. It's a wonderful circuit. We'll talk all about it momentarily, but I do quickly need to let you guys know about how there we go. It's all fixed up there. But to give you guys a reminder of how exactly our championship is going to work. So we, of course, are starting off our playoffs with tonight's race at Mazda Raceway, Laguna Seca. But we come here tonight after our final round at Charlotte Roval, which unfortunately I do not have a race recap for. Normally I would always have the little race recap up, but for some reason YouTube has just been horrible at trying to cut them together lately. So unfortunately that will not be able to happen, but I will kind of give you an insight into exactly what did happen last week at the Charlotte Roval on Friday, August the 7th. So, well, first of all, just a quick thing to mention. Rich Foligno and Justin Lillick, 2 of the guys that would have made the Championship 6 to fight for a title in the series, they were unable to make it for tonight's race, meaning that, well, effectively, the way that our final 3 races go, there are no drop races for the championship. It's just pure point scores all the way to the finish, which, well, it'll unfortunately mean for those 2 guys that their championship hopes are basically dashed. But if this is indeed the last race for Justin Lillick this season, which it does genuinely seem like might be a possibility with his racing commitments in real life kind of taking up his time as of late, there is the genuine possibility that he did end his time in the series on a race victory, which, again, if any of you out there have not seen a race at Charlotte Roval, it's in a playlist on our channel for season 2 races, or it's our last broadcast, so just hop on the channel page and you'll see it. But one of the best broadcasts I've ever called. It was a ton of fun. The race was super exciting, but Justin Lillick finally got his first race win in our series, and doing so right before a championship cutoff, where he was by no means certain to make it into the playoffs, and he managed to do so after a very, very tight bit of racing there. But Woody Mahan also made his debut there and had a great performance. He actually isn't here tonight from what I can see, so it's a shame that he was unable to make it. But a somewhat small field for tonight, but I will go over all your championship drivers in just a moment. We don't have a race recap, but tonight I've put together kind of a quick summary little segment of each of the 6 championship drivers left in our series. And do just keep in mind that Rich Foligno and Justin Lillick are not here tonight. Hence, they will be. I know Rich for sure will be here the next couple rounds. Justin, I'm sure, will try. But if I don't have footage of them in this practice, then it'll just be footage from, I guess just general footage of the track. But overall, that is about my spiel. So we will send you off to your little race recap video about, your 6 drivers left in today's playoff race, fighting for a championship in our series. And starting off our playoff field heading into tonight's race, we start with a notable absence, as most recent race winner and 5th-seeded series driver Justin Lillick looks to be unable to run more than one of the 3 playoff races this season as a result of other racing commitments. The series sophomore ran a very impressive season, scoring an early season 2nd place at Mosport, before getting his triumphant first win in series history at Charlotte Roval last week. Though he looks to be unable to compete for the title to end off the season, he is possibly in talks to commentate a playoff race or 2 alongside myself, provided of course he is available. Coming into tonight's race, Justin has 1 win, 2 podiums, and no poles to his name this season. And now we move on to the drivers who look to be able to compete for the 2nd annual Karts Computers Racing Series Championship. As a result of Lillick's absence in the final 3 rounds of the season, Devin Crosby has been promoted to the 5th place seed in the championship and will start the postseason with 1,002 championship points. Devin, probably more so than any other driver in the field, is very, very tough to predict. Arguably one of the most fast and experienced drivers in the series from an oval perspective, he has occasionally struggled by a combination of outside interference from other drivers and a minor lack of pace at some road courses. If he can put together a strong showing tonight at Laguna Seca, the final 2 races of the season being NASCAR races will surely give him as good a shot as any of notching his first series win, and furthermore, the 2nd annual Karts Computers Series title. Coming into tonight's festivities, Devin has yet to score a win despite 2 podiums and no poles so far in the series' 2nd season. One half of the team's championship leading Lad Pedal Blue tandem, Rich Foligno comes into the playoffs with a lot of potential to succeed, but with a couple of obstacles to overcome as well. Rich has found heaps of success in oval races this season, peaking with a 2nd place run in an LPM Blue 1-2 at Michigan earlier this season. Rich has shown that a specific knack for turning left is his skill set. That will definitely suit the playoff schedule with races at both Daytona and Darlington end this season. However, as we come tonight to the sloping corners and tricky turns at Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca, tonight has a lot riding on it for Rich, in order for him to make up points to the drivers seated ahead of him and to give himself the best chance to finish off the season as the 2nd ever Drivers' Champion. Rich enters tonight's race with no wins, a podium in round 6, and no poles to his name so far this season. And now to the drivers who have shown the most immense amounts of success in this season, and arguably have the most pressure on them to keep up that success in this season's playoffs. The first of these drivers is Andrew Pedrosian, a relatively unknown name at the beginning of the season, sure, but by the end of it, he's more than a name for himself as the kind of guy who could take home the top honors at the end of round 14. Andrew's most notable trait was his consistency this season, scoring an incredible 9 podiums in his first 11 races, including 4 runner-ups. It was only a matter of time until he finally scored a win, finally doing so at Pocono earlier this season. Andrew's very passionate approach to each and every race of this season, combined with his combination of experience at both ovals and road courses, means that Andrew Pedrosian is more than certainly a contender to take home the title this year. However, with an arguably more experienced driver ahead of him, in points in both the oval and road course discipline, heading into the playoffs, the American has absolutely no easy road ahead of him in order to earn top honors at the end of round 14. Andrew comes into round 12 with 1 win, 9 podiums, and 1 pole to his name so far. And now on to the runner-up in points heading into the playoffs, the 2nd-seeded oval master himself, Mr. Michael Krobach. Michael has had quite the statement of a season for himself so far this year, coming into Season 2 with only a single official win to his name, as well as a relative lack of top results at road courses. Michael has had a lot to prove if he wanted to improve upon his championship campaign from last year. And improve he did, as Michael took the top step on the podium 4 official times this season, as well as his last lap All-Star race win at Indianapolis earlier this season. Most notably for Michael this season, he put aside his Oval Master title that he'd been dubbed in the series due to his experience and speed at left-turn-only racing, and rattled off back-to-back wins at road courses, scoring wins at both the Nürburgring and Spa-Francorchamps this season. Coming into the playoffs, similar to both Devin and Rich, He has a lot to prove in tonight's race at a tricky track like Laguna Seca and the IR18, but if he can do that, then his chances to win the championship off the back of races at both Daytona and Darlington are favorable enough that it might just be what he needs to make his already successful Season 2 campaign even better. Michael's statistics this season give him 4 official race wins, 8 total podiums, and 3 pole positions. Finally, rounding off the stacked playoff driver field, is objectively the most successful driver in Karts to Computers Racing Series history. With a record 11 official race victories to his name over 2 seasons, Logan Pax's track record is one of a driver that will be very, very difficult to beat over a 3-race span for the title, especially as since he is the first seeded driver, he comes in with more points than anybody else in the field. Logan has had a very busy season, starting off with a rather mid-pack performance at Talladega to start the year, before exploding into 3 straight race wins from rounds 2 to 4, including finally winning his first oval race at Charlotte Motor Speedway earlier this season. Since that stretch, he's only missed the podium once, excluding his absence in round 10, meaning that he's put together arguably the most consistent campaign of the entire field. The biggest obstacle preventing the defending champion from going back-to-back? The remaining schedule. Though he may be the favorite for tonight's race at Laguna Seca, a return to NASCAR Superspeedway at Daytona, and the season finale at a tough Darlington NASCAR race mean that Logan will need to overcome the 4 LPM drivers, with significant oval capabilities, in back-to-back races if he wants to seal the season in first for the 2nd straight time in a row. Your championship leader comes into tonight's race with 5 wins, 8 podiums, and 8 poles to his name. And that will round off your little recap of the 6 championship drivers fighting for a championship position and looking to take the 2nd straight title in the Karts Computers Racing Series. And as I've talked about in the last couple of broadcasts, more than likely the 2nd and final of the current iteration of the Karts Computers Racing Series, which I'm not sure if that adds any more, stakes for the drivers, looking to be the 2nd of 2 ever champions in the series. But, well, best of luck to the championship drivers who are eligible for the spots tonight. You can see now there are your reset championship points. So the top 6 there, all eligible. Justin Luke did let me know in advance that he would be likely bowing out of the final 3 races of the season, meaning that, well, he was he kind of awarded the 6th, or I guess he awarded the 5th place seed in the championship to Devin, meaning that Devin gets the 2 extra bonus points that come along with being placed 5th going into the playoffs. And Justin will move into the 6th seat, provided he's, if he's able to come back and make a return and put together the 2 greatest races we've ever seen at 2 consecutive NASCAR races, then I guess he still has the potential to become the champion. But, well, as it stands, those will be the points heading into tonight. As you can see there, Logan Paxel, your championship leader, with a 5-point lead over the next driver in second, Michael Krobach. 3 points back is Andrew Pedrosian for Lad Pedal R&D. Then Rich Foligno, the 2nd LPM Blue driver in the top 4, with 1,004 points. And again, he will be unable to make tonight's race, as well as Devin Crosby with 1,002, rounding out your 4 drivers who are in attendance tonight. And Justin Luke round out your championship top 6. However, I wouldn't count out the 2 Guerras or Marshall Crocker there in the 9th position, all battling for the best of the rest honors there for 7th position, which does come along with prize money. So there is definite stakes for those 3 gentlemen there, all within 3 points of each other. With that being said, though, we now move on to your team standings, the final thing left to go over before we get to tonight's qualifying grid order. There you go. So Lad Pedal Motorsports Blue with 359, only 34 ahead of Logan Motorsports in second. So that championship battle is tightening up immensely. But with that being said, it is now time to get to your qualifying grid. Things are just speeding along here tonight. And there are your 9 positions for tonight's race. It looks like we had a late entry somewhere. Nope, that is just me. And again, I am not racing tonight. Unfortunately, my name is back up on the broadcast. So there are only 8 spots in tonight's race. So, well, Logan Paxel will take the pole tonight, as is, we are more than used to seeing these days. It is just kind of his specialty here at the road courses, and especially at Laguna Seca, where he was so quick last year, performing a pretty dominant race, winning by almost a second over a former very competitive driver in the series, Mr. Matt Clark. But he will take the pole tonight with a 109.936, one of the quicker lap times I've seen this early in a stint, but don't count out, less than 2 tenths behind him, Mr. Andrew Pedrosian on the outside there in that black, red, and white 22 car. He has been he's had his fair share of very competitive race finishes this season, including, well, his win just a couple weeks ago at Pocono. I don't know what this camera angle is. There we go. But on the inside of the third row, Mr. Max Preston, who came away with his first podium in series history last week at the Roval. Again, there were some crazy shakeups there, so I'd absolutely recommend going back to watch that Roval race if you haven't. But, well, Max Preston will take the inside of row 2 with Michael Krobach, another championship contender to his outside in the number 3 car. Then on the inside of row number 3, Manuel Guerra qualifying in 5th. I believe that's the best he's done in the entire history of the series so far, so great work for him tonight. Best of luck to Mr. Manuel Guerra. Then Devin Crosby sitting on the outside of row 3, another one of the championship drivers, taking the 5th seed tonight. So he has 12 points to make up to Logan Paxa off of the start. And, seeing as this is Logan's kind of specialty track, he might have his work cut out for him in the next couple races. But, well, you never know. Devin's been getting better and better at these road courses. So always the possibility he could come away with a very good finish tonight. After that, John Guerra, starting the 4th row on the inside, will qualify about 3.5 seconds back. So definitely some top pace from Logan and Andrew. But, again, really anybody in contention for positions in a race with 8 drivers. So, well, John will do his very best tonight, starting from the outside of that back row. And again, he is fighting for the best of the rest title with both Manuel and Marshall Crocker Sr., who rounds out the field in effectively 8th position, regardless of what that graphic may say. With that being said, we are getting ready to go green for tonight's race at Mazda Raceway, Laguna Seca. Logan Paxa, number 1 car there on the inside, will lead the field to green. Going around the corner for the final time, waiting for the green flag to fly. Logan Paxa's on the gas pedal. And off we go for WeatherTech Raceway, Laguna Seca. Round 12 of the Karts and Computers Racing Series, season number 2. The first corner looking fairly all clean, nobody appearing to get tripped up so far. The top 4 just absolutely took off from the pack behind. Devin Crosby already starting about 3.5 seconds back with Manuel Guerra behind him, but well, for the time being, no positions have changed, and Logan Pax is doing his very best to take off pretty early in this race. Definitely a good start off the jump, and well, Andrew, running an almost identical time in qualifying. You'd imagine he's got to have the pace that will be able to keep up quite handily with the guys behind him, or with the guys ahead of him, I should say in the case of Logan Paxa. So as we come up through the couple of corners leading up to the corkscrew, some great turns there as we come up the hill, coming up towards the corkscrew, down into the famous downhill sweeping section that Laguna Seca is known for. Its most iconic corner, I would argue. So your championship 4 coming through. Max Preston still holding down that 3rd spot ahead of Michael Krobach, who is in a championship position. Max, again, coming off a podium last week, obviously looking for his 2nd in a row, and he's a guy that all season I kind of talked about had the potential for how quick he was at road courses to just have an absolute barn burner of a performance one of these days, and well, he did it last week, and we'll see if he can continue the tradition. Logan will finish the first of 65 laps in tonight's race, and he's now pulled away by about 8/10 ahead of Andrew Bedrosian, and Bedrosian's done the same thing to Preston by about another 8/10. Michael Krobach is starting to slip backwards from those top 3, but you can still see him in that blue number 3 car a little bit ways back in the shot. Looks like nobody too considerably off the pace as of right now. And while Guerra showing up is just having an off-track incident. Yeah, he's still trying to get up to speed in that Diabolique Motorsports entry. But he does appear to have done so he'll get back on the gas pedal and head off. And behind him, Marshall Crocker Sr. is getting back up to speed, but he has done so pretty well, trying to make up the ground, which really at a track like Laguna Seca is more of a long drawn-out process than at other tracks, because knowing how often people make mistakes, it's not out of the question to say that just because you're 10 seconds behind somebody doesn't mean you'll be in the lead and just ahead of them, say, just a lap or two. This is the nature of such difficult tracks like Laguna Seca. But Pax is still leading Bedrosian now by about 1/2 second. If you wanted the best example of how these two can have great battles here at IR18 road courses, we'll just look at Mid-Ohio earlier in the season where they had some absolutely incredible battles culminating in almost I should say they actually did wreck in Thunder Valley, one of the laps there at Mid-Ohio, coming into a very difficult kind of sloped corner into a straightaway section. They both got together, which was, I believe, the first time this season, so definitely precedent that they can have very aggressive battles. And, well, you got to think that, Logan knows how much he needs this road course win. We talked about it in the past in an earlier interview, but knowing how the schedule is laid out here for the playoffs, knowing that it's, an IR18 road course followed by 2 back-to-back NASCAR races as a result of Michael Krobach picking one for the final race of the season from the All-Star race, well, he's got an uphill battle for sure, because he knows how good the LPM guys are at ovals, and that's just kind of been their bread and butter. Bedrosian's won at one earlier this season at Pocono. Michael is the oval master in our series, as I've dubbed him, and Rich almost won the season opener at Talladega, so not to mention Devin Crosby as well. So there's just a slew of top oval talent sitting there in the top 6 with him. So you got to think if he can get his final road course of the season and make it count and go for a win here, well, that would absolutely benefit him quite a bit. The one thing that he does have working to his advantage, though, is, of course, the extra bonus points he gets as a result of being the top seed. And, well, really, the last thing you'd want from Logan's perspective is to give those points up all in the first race. Well, you got to think there's got to be some mental advantage to being the top driver heading into, the final 2 races, even if they aren't your bread and butter per se. So Logan and Andrew, I should say, are keeping a pretty consistent gap at this point, sitting about maybe a second and a half apart. So nothing too insane as of yet, but Max Preston has definitely fallen back a little bit, gone back about 3 seconds in the last lap or two. So Well, really, we're seeing exactly how quick some guys are in comparison to each other. Everybody's starting to spread out at this point, and really, I think this will be a battle of attrition for sure. It'll be a fairly long race, but with 2 competition yellows, that's the way we're doing yellows tonight. No official cautions that will be thrown by me, because as we saw at Mid-Ohio, there can be some chaos that comes along with that, and it's a lot of responsibility. So we're back to the old competition yellow format. So we will have one on lap number 20 and lap number 40, and then it'll be a 25-lap dash to the finish, of course, including cautions. So more like a maybe 22 or 21 lap dash to the finish, but well, that should be plenty of time if everybody's still there and everybody's looking to get a battle going. That should be the time Andrew or whoever would need to make a challenge from second. And, I mean, I'm just assuming Logan would be at the front of the pack at that point, but again, you never know at road courses like these. As consistent as guys are, the IR18s at Laguna Seca, the specific reason I picked them for this late in the championship is, well, knowing how difficult it can be to get a car with such oversteer as the Indy cars can sometimes have on iRacing at a track where tight corners and sloping turns are all too common. It's a difficult challenge on your own, let alone racing against other people. So, while last week may have been a track that was generally pretty simple, as it is Skip Barber at a track that is in a lot of parts very wide, though the Roval is very tricky, that came a lot more down to actual racing and actual racecraft and competitiveness with the guys around you, rather than just your own lap times. Whereas here at Laguna Seca, you were just trying to hit your marks and make up time to the guys ahead and behind you whenever you can. So, well, whilst I've been talking here, Andrew is starting to make up ground to Logan quite a bit. He's got almost about 5 tenths since we entered up the hill towards the corkscrew this time by. So he's making up ground, and as Logan's about to cross for the 6th lap of the race, well, if you're an Andrew Bedrosian fan, you're glad to see that he's not dropping any room at all. And again, he's the guy that, Logan's going to go around, makes contact with the inside wall, straight around. Back up to speed quick, but I talked about it just a moment ago. This is one of those tracks difficult enough that anybody can make a mistake. And again, we don't have actual cautions. We're going competition yellows tonight. So Logan's going to have to nurse that thing back to the pits unless it's good enough to keep going. But look, as he slides through corner 1, this could be the start of a rough downfall here for Logan if he's not able to get that car collected. That was a crazy incident. We're going to go to it in a moment, but I just want to make sure he can continue. No, he's going to slide wide again. Max Preston will make the pass for second place, but well, let's go back and see exactly what happened there, because, well, so rarely in this series do you see Logan Paxson make a mistake. And again, when you're trying to run it as fast of a pace as he is, especially to stay away from a guy as quick as Andrew Bedrosian, stuff like that's expected to happen. Yeah, just got on the curb a little bit too much. And, well, stuff like that can be brutal, as I mentioned, at a track with so little grip as the Indy cars can sometimes have. And if dirt collects up on that outside curb, which I'd be surprised if it had yet, but just the lack of grip compared to the actual asphalt when you get back on the power. Sometimes if you could put your outside tires in the wrong spot, you can send yourself around like that. And well, Logan is, again, trying to nurse that car back to pit road. I would assume he's going to come into the pits this time by if he's able. I would be surprised if he stayed out any longer than he has to. And, yep, looks like he'll take the left-hander into the pits this time by. So, well, you got to wonder as he heads in. He's going to get a new car because of obviously quick repairs. But, well, the question is exactly, what does that mean in terms of strategy, in terms of feel? Like, could he go for an alternate strategy compared to the top guys? We are already 6 laps through a 65-lap race, and it's only 10%, but well, that is still significant enough that maybe he can go in an alternative fuel strategy to the rest of the field or something of that liking. But wow, that is absolutely a wrench thrown in the beginning of this race. And well, really the priority for Logan right now would be to stay on the lead lap, because he is able to pit under the competition yellow. So once we all reset, provided he's still in the lead lap, then he should be okay to get back in this race. As we've seen so many Logan comebacks before that it's almost become kind of his trademark. Michaels is, of course, oval wins, and well, these days Andrews is, well, being either captain consistency or I'd almost call him the jack of all trades these days, because he seems like the #1 guy in our series that's just super competitive everywhere. I mean, you talk about the NASCAR win a few races ago at Pocono, and now he comes back in a race like Laguna Seca and is now leading by 7 seconds over Max Preston in the next spot. But we're going to go to Max Preston actually very quickly, because again, we talked about his race last week at Roval, where he kind of put on a standout performance and one that kind of makes a name for himself in this series, because, well, for so long he was either the guy that couldn't get into races or would just narrowly miss out on the podium. I mean, remember Watkins Glen earlier this season, the first time we had an IndyCar race, and I think it was round 2 or 3. But he was super talented and had a ton of pace. He just narrowly missed out on the podium when his teammate, I think Justin Lewick, had just a little bit quicker of a race than him, and they battled all race, but I think somebody managed to take that top 3 spot away from him in the end. So he came so close that time, and then just had a slew of races where he was unable to make it out. And I thought, okay, one of these days he's going to get it figured out and he'll come out and have the pace that I know he's shown in things like practices and things like that. But well, he finally did last week. He made an name for himself, and now he's all the way up there in second spot, pulling away from a championship contender in Michael Krobach. And I know part of that being helped by Logan Paxton just having his incident a moment ago. But with that incident, whether he makes it back on a competition yellow or not, that's the kind of thing that Max Preston needs to get track position and maybe look for his first win in the series. Because I understand that the top 4 guys are all fighting for championship spots and looking to get a title, but at the end of the day, he's got something to prove as well. And knowing that the elite group of guys that have won races in this series, including his teammate there, Justin Lewick, well, you got to think that a win could mean quite a bit for a guy like Max, who, he's been so quick, and I know the talent that is there, and I'm looking forward to seeing if not only can he build off the podium last week, but when a guy I've talked about a long time would finally get his first win did last week in Justin Lewick, well, the hope is definitely there that he can follow it up and do something very similar this week. Marshall Crocker Sr. will not come into the pits, and significant damage. I was going to say he had jumped up to 4th on track when he headed in, but I was wondering why that was the case. But he's had to come in for a quick repair, and once his toe is through, he should have a new set of tires there, so Logan will pass him and move back into the top 5. But he, that being Marshall Crocker Sr., should probably get back on the track momentarily and continue this race, because again, provided you stay on the lead lap, there's never any reason to count yourself out late in a race, because once we reset and the caution comes out, then everybody's back on an even playing field, and the only thing you lost is either pit strategy along the way or quick repairs you happen to use in order to stay on track. But with Andrew coming by, I think you're going to see my father in the background there, so Andrew will take the lap, but the lucky dog rule isn't a fact for tonight, so he would get that lap back. I should say, provided he is able to be the first guy off of it. So, well, we're staying hooked here with Andrew Bedrosian, the guy that, again, as I've talked about many times this season, he seems to be getting better and better. But in a way, seeing as he started off the season with, I think, 8 of the first 9 races being podium finishes, off his second race. This is his sophomore season, but he only ran the final race of last season. So to say it's a sophomore season probably isn't even the truth. But knowing that he ran his 2nd to 10th career races in the Karts Peters Racing Series, only not finishing on the podium once. He was a quick learner, and he continues to have pace everywhere, to the point where, well, more and more, I was thinking earlier in the season we might see a repeat of last year's championship, where it's Logan and Michael kind of fighting it out to the finish. But Andrew and really several of these other guys have kind of opened my eyes to, the longer this season's gone and the longer the series has gone, and the more guys have gotten used to iRacing and got more and more experience at some of these tracks, the quicker they can be, and especially the guys from last season coming back and coming to tracks for the second time. Think of the guys that ran Roval last year who were so quick there last week, like Justin Lewick, who got his first win there. So, the more experienced guys in the series are putting up good performances, but the new guys like Andrew Bedrosian and Max Preston, as we see in the top 2 right now, they've been quick, and I pride the guys that have stuck around and continue to stay competitive. Even Devin Crosby, who I know still has yet to get a win this season, but he's just kind of the guy that, I think if he rattled off a good series of NASCAR wins at the end of the season, say he won both Daytona and Darlington, well, the season's in the bag for him, provided he gets a good finish tonight. And currently sitting in the 4th spot, we'll go to him in just a moment, but we're just keeping him watching these 2 Diabolique Motorsports cars, where we might see a battle forming any second. But yeah, so seeing as the schedule is kind of catered to Devin the next couple of races, or I guess the final 2 races of the season, both being NASCAR races. One at Daytona, which you could argue was kind of an insane race where anybody could win, but then you go to Darlington, which is so much based around tire management. And I know, talking in the past with him after the All-Star race last year, tire management's just kind of his thing. It's a skill that he happens to have, and I think it's one that, provided he was able to utilize it, could be the thing that gets him his first win in the series, and to do it in what might be the final ever race in the current iteration of this series, well, that would be absolutely a statement win for Devin, and I think he'd become the 7th ever race winner here in the Karts Peters Racing Series. But for the time being, we got to focus on Mr. Jean Guerra here, who we're sitting with in 6th. His brother Manuel sitting just a couple seconds back, actually starting to catch him as we come up the hill this time. But well, John has had a very exciting season as well. He came only a couple points away from making it into the Championship 6 last week at Roval. But John is one of those guys that every time we come to a race like this, where it's so tricky and there's so many opportunities to get in incidents and basically any race of attrition, John just seems to have this consistency that he doesn't often make mistakes, and it's the kind of thing that well, certain guys in real life racing series, think of a guy like, if you're an F1 fan, Sebastian Vettel, or if you're an IndyCar fan, Will Power, like guys that are so based around top speeds that are more prone to making mistakes. They can be quick on their best days, but then there are some guys like the journeymen that just don't seem to make those same mistakes. I think Kimi Räikkönen for F1 or somebody like that, where consistency is kind of their brand and just staying quick wherever they go. And John seems to be that kind of guy. And I think today, sitting currently in 6th, remaining on the lead lap, depending on how this race goes, he could be one of those guys that gets one of his best finishes that he's had in the series so far. And I don't know, as we come to the end of the season and possibly the end of the series, there's just a couple of guys that I'd really like to see get a good, get a great final result to end off their time in the series. Because everybody that, like John, who's come out for so many races, it would be an absolute pleasure to see them get some great performances to end it all. And just generally there are a few guys I want to see on the podium and get an interview with before this whole thing shuts down and when we start up some other racing, series or commitment in the winter. So I'll talk more about that when I have official answers. I am actually running a separate series that I'd kind of mention it, but it's not actually a broadcasted thing. But for the time being, I mentioned this battle between the Garras that was heating up. You see Andrew Bedrosian there in the background, but this battle of two guys that might go a lap down is getting fierce. Jean looks like he's going to let Manuel by on the outside. Guess he just knew that he had a little bit more pace, or maybe he's trying to get back in the draft to help avoid Andrew Bedrosian. You see these fun new camera angles there, trying to switch it up a little bit and keep things fresh. But yeah, you see Manuel's actually starting to pull away quite quickly, and really any buffer to the charging, chomping shark there of Andrew Bedrosian, who's about to presumably eat the fish there of Jean Garry. Yeah, he'll hop by. So John will become the new lead driver, meaning he would still maintain the lucky dog position, unless provided, of course, that Andrew did get Manuel, who, again, if you look at the track map there, Manuel is not giving up any ground anywhere near as quickly as possibly you'd expect with a guy as quick as Andrew. But now we're going to look for a battle for position, as I believe Logan just made the pass there on Devin Crosby, I think on the inside, coming up to the final turn. So Logan will move back into the top 4. Remember, he had the incident just a couple laps ago that put him in a very uncharacteristic 4th position. You very rarely see him outside the top 3 at a road course of this nature. But again, Logan is the defending series champion here. Of course, he won last time in the Skip Barber series, so the first time we've come here in the IndyCar, and again, he's got a lot to prove. But really, you could argue he doesn't, because all the times he's spent here at the road course is that, especially the IndyCar ones, the only times that he ever doesn't succeed are when something actually goes wrong and forces him out of the race, which, in the case of the Thunder Valley incident at Mid Ohio, that didn't so much seem like his fault at all necessarily. That was just kind of a racing thing that, Logan's not necessarily a very reckless driver or anything. It's one of the things I prided him on. So, I assure you that provided he's able to stay on the lead lap, which looks almost certain at this point, you look at where the number 1 red entry is on track of Andrew Bedrosian on the track map. You see how big that gap is. So, Logan has only got 5 more laps to go until the end of the stage, quote unquote, you could say, and then everything will reset. And he's got a quick repair down, but you can never count a guy like Logan Pax out, especially not to make up some track position. And provided he goes in an alternative fuel strategy, and maybe he could take the number 1 spot in line coming back from the next caution. You never know. There's a lot to play for, and really, when I try to make predictions at the start of these road course races, they always go wrong. So I will just keep my mouth shut. We'll see what happens. But I haven't really got a chance to check the chat yet. First of all, thank you everybody for who happens to be watching your first Karts and Computers Racing Series race tonight, or something of the sort. Again, usually we do have a little bit bigger crowd than this, or at least in terms of drivers able to make it out. So, too bad that we didn't get a bigger turnout. But often we do have somewhere in the realm of 10 to 12 guys. We had a really good turnout a couple weeks ago at our All-Star race, and pretty well at the Roval last week. But unfortunately, Woody Mahan, Rich Foligno, Josh Gallagher, and Jordan West, as well as Justin Lillig. We actually have quite a few guys missing tonight. But yeah, just a couple key entries that unfortunately weren't able to make it. So hopefully in the final 2 races, we'll have all those guys back. I know Josh will be there. I assume Woody will be there. Justin's going to do his very best. And Foligno also should be back in a couple of weeks. Should be back in exactly a week, because we do have the next race of our series on Friday, August the 21st, and then rounding it out at Darlington for Friday, August the 28th. So just the final 2 Fridays of the month, and then we will be all done the series in time for back to school, including myself, who is heading off to university. With that being said, let's just look around the track and try to get an idea of how gaps are extending. One that I do want to talk about is Andrew Bedrosian and Max Preston. Now sitting on board there with Andrew as he comes across the line. Well, let's throw up the which lap. There we go. So the lap time graphic to compare the lap times between Andrew and Max. Well, the number one thing that jumps out to me here is I know that Max was getting slower and slower behind him. Actually, it wasn't actually getting that much slower. It was just Andrew's times were so quick, but relatively in terms of the gap, he started to get closer and closer to the point where Max ran almost a half second quicker last time by on lap 15. By the way that his lap time diverged there, it looks like I guess Andrew just made a mistake on lap 15 or something that caused Preston to gain a little bit. But yeah, he got almost a second and a half. He did get a second and a half there on Preston that last time by. So a 1:09.9. We're actually going to put up the quickest lap of the race for each of these drivers just to get a better idea of what the peak speed of some of these guys is. It just looked like saw that John Guerra went off track. It appears he is back by now. Well, Guerra is as well. I don't know. I just had a blip that suggested the driver came off the track, but looks like everybody is back up to speed. Bush Crocker Sr. comes over the line this time. Oh, we have John Guerra, I think, just making the pass. And Manuel Guerra. See, but in the background, Manuel Guerra down the hill. Yeah, well, I am not sure what happened to him there. It's a very unusual spot for somebody to come off. I don't think I've ever seen somebody walk up there, but one thing that I have yet to mention, but the way that the track here at Laguna Seca is designed, there's so much like exterior offline gravel and dirt, just the way that it's built in the desert and the material. Wow, one of the biggest bumps I've ever seen off that inside curb. He hopped that bad boy pretty good, got it under the open wheels of the IR18 chassis, and this is one of those cars that you can just not afford to hit bumps at high speed with. So we're going to try to get that from a different angle and see exactly what happened there. But he came in with a lot of speed, tried to make a very aggressive entry into the turn, but on an attempt to make up speed, he has unfortunately hit it a little bit too hard. Got it back up to speed pretty quick, got it in reverse, and tried to do the flick around to get that thing back on the track. Let's see live where he is now. He's missing a front nose, but he is almost back to the pits. Or actually, no, he's not. He's looking to go around the... it looks like he's doing an entire lap with that car. So, I mean, maybe it's not affecting his downforce and his handling enough that he wants to bother, but that would surprise me if it were the case. Andrew Bedrosian, your race leader, will come in this time. Take the left and right into pit roads of the 22 car coming in for the first time this race. Only a couple laps left until guys are ineligible to come into the pits. Actually, this is the last lap he's able to. So Andrew takes the last available lap to pit, and he will do so. Max Preston, however, will not. Max is going to come by, and he's only got one more lap left until he'd win the first stage. So white flag in the stage here, one lap until our first competition yellow. So Max Preston will take the lead. We'll keep an eye on the pit entrance there to see if anybody else does the same as him. But, well, Max Preston, who, again, I was talking about a moment ago, has a lot to prove tonight. But, the possibility of a Max Preston win tonight, it's the kind of thing that, well, that would bring up an interesting question is what would the championship leaders do if they were in a very difficult and troublesome battle with a guy who wasn't in the championship for position? I mean, the bonus points that winning provides are very, apparent, but Devin's going to head into the pits this time. Yeah, like the benefits provided by the extra, I think 5 or 6 bonus points you get from winning, they're pretty extreme. But I mean, at the end of the day, if you come out of a race and finish in I guess tonight 7th or 8th, the points you lose, the question is that worth the risk of the points you might gain? So that's the question, is what would the championship guys do? And Max will certainly throw a wrench in the plans of all of our championship leaders. Max will come around the final couple of corners. He's going to head into the pits this time. I'm not sure if Max remembered, but this was the final lap he was eligible to do, so there is a penalty for coming in too early. So he'll come in on the final lap eligibility into the pits, which will register a penalty. So that should mean that Andrew Bedrosian should finish the stage. He'll come across the line in the pits, but the reset won't happen until Andrew comes across. So our competition yellow is coming out momentarily. And indeed, the first yellow of the race has now been thrown. Andrew Bedrosian will be credited with taking the win on that stage, as again, Max Preston coming in a lap too late as to when he was eligible. The last lap drivers are eligible to come into the pits on a competition yellow is 2 laps before it is thrown, and Max did so the lap that it was coming out. So we will address that post-race as is necessary. But for the time being, Andrew Bedrosian will win stage 1. Michael Krobach will finish in second place, as he often does at these road courses, where he just mysteriously seems to end up higher than would be expected. And as a combination of Preston's pit stop and Pax's incident earlier in the run, he will finish in second in the current stage. Rounding off the list after that will be Logan Paxett, coming back into the top 3 after his incident earlier, but he was making great lap times, made the pass on Logan Paxett, and now, or made the pass on Devin Crosby, I should say, and now we'll move all the way back up to the 3rd spot. In the background, one of the Diabolic Motorsports cars heading around. John Guerra, I believe, was the one that went around that time at the bottom of the corkscrew, but he is back and returned. So Andrew Bedrosian, Michael Krobach, and Logan Paxett will be your top 3 heading back after your next competition yellow goes back to green here in round number 12 of the Karts Computers Racing Series, season number 2 at Mazda WeatherTech Raceway, Laguna, Seca.
The most realistic online racing sim ever made. This is iRacing. Detailed laser scan tracks, fully dynamic real world cars, and over 50 series to choose from. 6 online world championships offering over $100,000 in annual prizes. This is the original esport racing game. This is iRacing.
And we are back for round number 12 of the Karts Computers Racing Series second season here at Mazda WeatherTech Raceway, Laguna Seca. As we see there, Mr. Logan Paxett remains in the 3rd position. The lights on the pace car are still on, so we have one more caution lap after this one. So I would expect that most guys would come into the pits this time by, including the 12 car Manuel Guerra, who appears to have significant damage, sitting second in line there. Or no, who is the... Oh, Michael Krobach is there in the, the blue entry. It looks like he's changed it very mildly from last week, so just trying to get used to what might be a moderately different scheme. But checking the chat just before we came back from break, David Paxett just quickly asked how many incidents for a penalty in tonight's race. It has actually been changed from the usual. It was in theory supposed to be the usual 15 for a time penalty, 25 for disqualification system. However, as a result of iRacing hating when I give it orders, it looks like we're going to be doing the 17 points for a time penalty and no disqualifications. So in every interval of 17 incident points accrued throughout the race, you get I think it's a 45-second time penalty that you can serve as a stop and go. So now we will see who comes into the pits this time. So Michael Krobach, Logan Paxett will both come in. Andrew pitted on lap 18 right before the caution came out, so he will not need to worry about pit stops. But we're going to head to the end of pit lane and watch as the drivers come down into their stalls. You can see there on the right all the numbers for each of the drivers. So Logan Paxett having the first pit stall as a result of finishing on pole. Andrew Bedrosian in second in the 22 stall. The 8 stall of the 3 stall of Mr. Michael Krobach, and so on and so forth. Or that is the 8 stall of Max Preston, I should say. So Logan pulls into his stall, as does Michael Krobach. And Logan was behind Michael coming into the pits. We'll see if he jumps him here. He does. So Logan Paxett will get a spot on pit road. Michael comes out next, followed by Marshall Crocker Sr. And that is Manuel Guerra in the pits, who is currently getting damage repaired, and I would assume using a quick repair on that very damaged number 12 car. But now we will head out to the start of the grid as we see Mr. Andrew Bedrosian will remain leading the field. Devin Crosby decided not to come into the pits this time. Neither did Mr. Max Preston, who did pit that last time by. So your top 3 will now become Bedrosian, Crosby, Preston, Paxett, and Krobach are your top 5 in total. And John Guerra is expected to get the Lucky Dog pass, meaning that he gets a lap back as being the first driver a lap down. So he would move back onto the lead lap, meaning that only Manuel Guerra and Marshall Crocker would be your 2 drivers not on the lead lap. About a third of the way through this race tonight, as we come across for lap number 22, it'll be 23, and when we go green next time by, as the lights on the pace car are off. Let's just take a moment and analyze the line of cars who will start off this next green flag stint. So Andrew Bedrosian leading the field, as he is your current race leader. But after him is Mr. John Guerra sitting there in the 11 car, second in line. Behind him is Mr. Devin Crosby sitting in the second spot, one of your championship 4. Looking for a very good result tonight and currently sitting in second. He will get it at this pace. After that, Mr. Max Preston, who I believe sits right behind him in the number 8 car. After that, Logan Paxett is sitting right behind him in line, followed by Michael Krobach. And Marshall Crocker Sr. and Manuel Guerra will round out the line of cars on the next restart. Andrew has
Hang on, we're not going green.
So John is going to head by. We're going to have a delayed green, so the lights on the pace car are back on. It looked like they just let Jean go too late, so the sim decided not to start this time by, and I don't think I've seen that in quite a while. So, well, that means that John will head around and we'll get one more lap of of pace car stint before we're able to go back green. But as a result of that, maybe I'm just going to take the graphics down and maybe we'll do a quick lap of the track with your race leader, Mr. Andrew Bedrosian. So try to get my sound levels all in order here, because the last thing you want is a cockpit view with the engines at real volume, because, well, as I can tell you, if you try to blare your if you try to blare the sound in one of these cars during a actual race, it can absolutely well, it can borderline make you deaf, because, man, the volumes that they run these Indy cars out in iRacing. I mean, Indy cars are very loud in real life, but you'd think with the Halo they'd be a little quieter, and I think that is about quiet enough. But for those of you that have never seen the inside of a modern-day Indy car, here's what you're looking at. So Andrew Bedrosian's number 22 car here. As you can see, the Halo that they've added in the last couple of years to the Indy cars is kind of the windscreen effect that you see there, with the big kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? The big foundation pole right in the middle there to keep the Halo up, and then the brim of it around the top there that you saw a moment ago in one of our different camera angles. But here is what Andrew Bedrosian sees, and I mean, you talk about sight lines. You see him just trying to warm the tires up and weaving back and forth. Another lap under the pace car. It looks like its lights are back on again, so I'm not exactly sure what's happening there on that side, but may need to investigate if it goes any longer. But Andrew is well, he's done getting the tires warmed up, I guess, as he comes up the hill towards the corkscrew. You can only swerve for so long before you genuinely have to try to make the corkscrew, is even at very low speeds under caution. It's a very difficult corner. You see there just how intense of a left-right it is, almost sudden to the point where it's basically straight in some parts. It's almost a diagonal corner, but it's almost hard to describe the exact motions you have to do when driving through Mazda Raceway, Laguna, Seca, and an IndyCar. But I almost think it doesn't do it justice exactly how tall that corner is, and I'll show you my bottom of the hill corkscrew camera in just a moment when we come around the next time by, as it does appear we will need to, as the pace car will not make the left onto pit road this time. So I think one more lap of cautions. But yeah, for those of you that have never made it out to Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca, as again, it is in California. So, you know, if you ever take a trip to California to go to, I guess, less superior Disney park for whatever reason, if you'd want to, the lights on the pace car are off this time, so we should be good. But yeah, so Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca, I'd say, is one of the more famous tracks in all of America. It's a little bit unique in that they don't run it for too many series anymore. I mean, NASCAR doesn't go there. F1's never gone there. IndyCar does. Well, they didn't go there for a number of years, but they are now back. They actually run their last race of the season there now, so taking the honors from Sonoma a couple years before, and I personally enjoy Laguna a lot more than Sonoma, so that does make me happy as an IndyCar fan. But I mean, you see the sprawling hills in the background there, all the canopies set up for fans, presumably, as again, I've never been there, but the facilities that I've seen through TV and pictures of the track are beautiful. So you got to think, with hot weather and you know, dusty climate, it'd be a very different racing experience to anything you could see over here in Canada. As well, the closest natural road course we have to us is probably Watkins Glen over in New York State. So this is kind of just Marshall's real life racing lesson. But one more thing to mention from the interior view of Andrew Bedrosian's number 22 car, you see the inside cockpit mirrors, which are realistic to the in-car experience. I'm not exactly sure what he has his settings set to. I know some drivers set it so that only the most close cars show up, so only one or two. That way you can save on visual space. But personally, we're running a laptop that is good enough to show them, so you see all of the cars sitting behind him in the line. It's a pretty impressive view, and once again speaks to exactly how beautiful of a simulator iRacing has created. But now you see the cars coming down the final time in this current competition yellow through the corkscrew, and that gives you a little bit better idea of exactly how much vertical descension there is in that corner, as Max Preston and Manuel Guerra will be the final guys through it this time. So, well, Andrew will take the third to last corner before the next green flag start here. So we'll pull his name down, let the pace car make the left onto pit road, and get ready to go green here for the second time tonight. First time at a restart at Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca. On the brakes is Andrew Bedrosian with Devin Crosby right behind him, getting set to go green. He's on the gas pedal. Green flag here at Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca for the second time tonight in round 12 of the Karts Computer Adventure Series second season. What a camera angle as the cars fly by. You see this long spread out shot of corner one. Somebody goes flying away in the background. That was Devin Crosby, I think, sliding across the outside of the track. Camera angle doesn't let me go look over. Devin is flipped over on his roof. He's going to have to go back to the pits with the tow. What in the world did we just see? It looks like they went pretty clean up the first hill. I mean, you saw Andrew get such a good jump, and Logan coming up behind. We'll see exactly what happened. he kind of just tries to straighten out, checks up a little earlier than Logan was anticipating, and Logan will make contact, kind of tap him around, but not significant damage there on the number 1 car of Logan Paxa, so he remains up to speed, and it's just a shame for Devin Crosby, who will be credited as first on the timing tower, but it is only because he got a tow back to pit road, so people need to wait for that towing time to go through. My graphics do not want to tell me where people are, I guess, as a result of Devin's reset. So Andrew Bedrosian will continue to lead the field here. Is a pretty great jump for him. He got a perfect restart, but now that Logan is the only guy in front of him out of the way, and seeing as he was your pole sitter, you got to think he's got the pace to challenge Andrew Bedrosian. So pretty early in a race, before halfway, but still, I mean, we saw it at Mid-Ohio. You know, sometimes you just want to get the positions out of the way early, and you know, if you can put yourself in clean air and somebody in the back, Max Preston, makes a huge charge down the inside of Devin Crosby, or sorry, Michael Krobach, I should say. Look at the cone Max is towing there on the front of his car. He's got a giant cone that actually does match the Aero McLaren orange and blue livery he's got going there, but he has now made a best friend cone there, who finally looks to select. No, it is still there. Wow, it looks like it's in the floor of the texture of the track, so it's going to follow him around the entire time until I guess he brakes hard enough to get it off. Oh, it's disappeared. I was gonna throw it to the chat to name Max Preston's pet cone, but well, it looks like we'll have to focus on the racing for the time being. Truly a shame, but again, these camera angles to it are great. Something about Laguna Seca is just such a great aesthetic track that it provides for not only the perfect battling location, but some of the perfect views as well. So Andrew Bedrosian, that last time by, actually made a bit of an extension of his gap to Logan Paxa behind him. Got about 3 or 4 tenths there the last time since he entered the corkscrew. So maybe it's just a certain section of the track Andrew's particularly quick at, but he's going to dive to the inside to try to avoid the draft. Once again, coming back into this kind of double apex hairpin here that is one of the trickiest corners in all of iRacing, let alone at Laguna Seca. So through corner 2, Andrew comes down into corner 3, and so many close corners here and so many close apexes with those outside sections, and if you get too much of that outside curbing and hit the kind of gravelly material there that most of the track is made out of, well, that is just an absolute grip killer. So man, just so difficult. I definitely feel for these guys, as I haven't personally run an official race here in an IndyCar at Laguna Seca, but man, trying to balance not only a battle, but just making it around the track in one piece at all is truly impressive. And you can also see the streaks up both sides of the track there coming up the hill, but those big dirty sections there, those can absolutely tear up grip. And I mean, we had them build up in practice, as a lot of guys going off trying to get up to speed. So the longer those sit there and the longer they build up, the less grip there is in some of those marbly sections on the untraditional racing line. So if you go to make a pass in a spot that has way too much dirt there that compromises your grip, you can put yourself around in an attempt to gain positions, and well, you can move back about 4 or 5 that you wouldn't have anticipated. So that time by, Logan made up a couple of tenths, but really he's not making up significant ground to Andrew. And I mean, Andrew doesn't appear to be making mistakes. I mean, we've been on board with him this entire lap, so maybe we'll head on board here with Logan Paxa and see what he's looking at as he comes up towards Andrew Bedrosian. But this will give you a better idea of exactly the apexes these guys are hitting from a pure racing perspective. You can see kind of the little dirt patch building up there on the outside of that last corner we went through, where some guys are just missing the dirt narrowly and hitting the apex. You see the dirt patch that I think formed by one of the Diving Motorsports cars a moment ago. Michael Krobach will come into the pits this time, which is an interesting timing for a pit stop. I thought he came in a moment ago, so the fact that he's in this time is surprising. I'm just going to go back and make sure he didn't have damage coming into the pits that time. No. He didn't appear to. So he came into the pits last time by. So I'm wondering if this is some insane specific pit strategy he's got going. If he thinks he can make it to the end on 37 laps of fuel, which, if he can do so, would go against my understanding of how the fuel stints were going to work tonight. But I mean, Michael is kind of the fuel conservation guy around here. He does it at the ovals, and well, it is the same simulator after all, so I see no reason he couldn't also do it here at Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca. Devin Crosby will come into the pits again. Again, just these weird little pit stops that I'm surprised are happening. A little bit of damage to his rear wing. I'm not sure if he's towed in again, and if he has, he'll have to use his second quick repair. But yeah, teleporting off the track. So it looks like he was coming up to, yeah, again, that double apex hairpin here in corner 1. Coming in with a fair bit of speed, but what was it up in time? Did it just get loose around him on the back? Already a little bit of damage to his rear wing, and yeah, just lost it, sent it into corner 2 gravel. Stopped the car. Yeah, didn't even try to get back up to speed. So I'm worried that he's just going to finish off tonight's race and bow out, which would put Marshall Crocker Sr. up into the 7th spot and Seeing as he's only a lap back of Mr. Manuel Guerra, well, he is by no means out of tonight's festivities. John Guerra also coming into the pits this time. Fairly significant damage to the front wing. Let's see what happened to him. Hard to keep up sometimes with the track as difficult as Laguna Seca. So many little incidents can occur throughout the run. He's had that damage for a long, long time. He was trying to run away from his Diabolique Motorsports teammate Manuel Guerra, and seemed to be doing so successfully. But yeah, he had that miles ago. So I'm thinking that's got to be just a normal fuel stop, or unless he just got so sick of the little bits of damage he had there that he, gave up and decided to call it quits and came in for his quick repair. But Andrew Petrosian is now starting to pull away from Logan Paxton. We'll throw up the lap time graphic here. So see the difference between these two cars. So Andrew's pulled away from Logan each of the last 4 laps, doing so by almost 4/10 that last time by. So, I mean, Andrew, man, he just never count this guy out. He ran a 109.6 a couple laps ago, which is his best of the race. It is a green lap, not a purple lap, meaning that I would assume Logan has the quickest lap of the race. We'll check in a moment, but he's still doing so. He's got about 3/10 since I pulled up this graphic. So I'm not sure if Logan's just kind of trying to drop back a little bit, or maybe he's going for a similar fuel strategy to Michael and he's playing the long game. But if not, well, Andrew was only about a 10th behind in qualifying, and he's now putting that maybe long run pace to good use. We've seen it before in this series where at some of the ovals, it looks like over a long stretch of time he could be a little bit quicker than guys, even as quick as Michael Krobach. So again, so much to fight for here in the championship battle, and as Devin Crosby looks like he will officially bow out there in 8th position to finish off his night, that'll definitely it'll mean that he'll need to run some almost perfect races to end off the season here at Daytona and Darlington in the next 2 weeks. But well, for the top 3, Bedrosian, Paxton, and Krobach, Michael Krobach, who sits currently 51 seconds back, 9 laps to go until the next competition yellow, he looks to be okay. We'll pull up the track map in a moment, but his number one priority is staying a lap ahead of Andrew Bedrosian, because if he goes a lap down, sure, he might get the lucky dog pass, but as we've seen before with John Guerra, I mean, it worked out that last time by, but sometimes iRacing decides to send the lucky dog driver around a little bit too late, and if they do that, occasionally they just don't have time to catch up to the back of the line. So effectively, as the lucky dog driver, you're not a lap down per se, but you're getting only half your lap back, to the point where you still got to have a great stint in order to keep your lap for the next one, and to the point where you'd actually properly reset because you've been coming into the caution. So well, you see there the number 4 car on the track map in the blue, and the number 1 car on the just coming into the final corner there, obviously the maroon green combo of Andrew Bedrosian, which his graphic color is dark kind of orange, and his cars are black and red. I don't know why it does that, but I try to correlate them the best I can, and sometimes they some of these guys switch their liveries enough that I can't keep up. So well, since we started talking about Michael, Logan has got back into the fight. We'll check their laps last time by, but Logan, I think, made up about 8/10, 5/10 to be exact, half a second quicker that last time by, and Andrew was actually significantly slower than his previous 2 laps in 31, running a 1:10.2, so I would assume just a little mistake from Andrew, but it's to the point where just watching him from the naked eye, I didn't see him make a mistake. So when guys are running times as quickly as 109s as these top 2 guys are, the littlest mistake can be absolutely detrimental to your lap times. And some great camera angles here as we come up to the corkscrew. The lap car of, which car is that? It's Manuel Guerra there in the number 12, who will hopefully stay out of the way and let these 2 guys battle for position. You'd imagine they're talking on the radio right now, trying to coordinate their positions. So Andrew's going to come up in time, should be able to get him by coming across the line this time. Coming out of the final corner, yeah, Manuel appears to have moved out of the way off to the inside, so good sportsmanlike driving from him. Across the line this time, we see the top 2, and well, if Manuel were in this battle, we'd have great 3-car races. He's actually running very quickly through the first sector there, but again, you see this double apex long hairpin, one of the more famous corners at Laguna Seca. But again, you're starting to get a better idea of exactly how much the vertical, difference in altitudes can be here at Laguna Seca. But look at that cliff in the background with the building on top. There's some genuinely beautiful architecture and scenery here at this track, and though the background may just kind of look like a big sandy hill, I swear to you that this is one of the more interestingly designed and laid out tracks in all of iRacing, or in all the world, because some tracks like what's a good example of something we run? Like, think of Charlotte Motor Speedway. Charlotte, they just kind of chucked a big oval facility in the middle of just general Charlotte, North Carolina, but they paved everything out. They made it a full facility, and it doesn't utilize the landscape at all because it's a traditional oval. But then you think about a track here like Laguna Seca, where they just kind of threw tarmac onto the the weaving hills and landscapes of California, I should say. And it's beautiful in that sense, because it looks like it shouldn't be there how it is, and nothing is perfectly parallel, and everything's kind of bizarre. I mean, you look at the track map, one of the weirder ones you'll ever see on iRacing. So it's just a fascinating circuit, and Logan is using his skills at this fascinating circuit to make up even more time. We got about 2 or 3 tenths that last lap by again, so this battle is by no means done, but we're only 6 laps away from the second competition yellow. So again, the question has to be asked, is it better to just wait and try to conserve to the end of this run and then make your moves on the beginning of the last stage, or maybe try to hit a fuel number or conserve tires or whatever the plan may be? So I know everybody has different plans, especially at these IndyCar IR18 races. If you feel you weren't the fastest guy, well, there's almost always a way to plan out your strategy such that you come away with maybe a spot better than you would have done otherwise if it was just on pace, which is part of what makes it interesting about the competition yellows, because as we've seen in the past, track position can be absolutely almost random at times in how it turns out. Logan actually moving back a little bit this lap. Andrew running a great lap time this time by. Yeah, sometimes track position on these restarts can be absolutely vital for some guys. I mean, you think about Michael Krobach. It feels like every time we have a competition yellow race, whether he's the quickest guy or not, he's magically leading coming into the final stint. So some guys just plan for that. Some guys just have a better strategy coming in, and if that happens to be the case for Michael, well, it could mean that he would put himself right back in the battle of these top 2 championship contenders who, I mean, Andrew's going to be quick at the NASCAR Ovals, but Logan, this is kind of his last, chance to get in a win at a track that he can probably feel super confident about before he goes off to 2 that, seem more in the wheelhouse of a guy like Andrew or Michael. So, well, you really got to talk about Logan's championship, condition at all. I mean, I talked about him a little bit in kind of that pre-race intro bit there, but if you think about his championship, not only is he running against 2 guys with big oval experiences, but Andrew's going to walk up this time, kind of slide into the inside gravel there through the corkscrew. Doesn't look like he's got any damage as a result, and he seems to be back up to speed pretty quick, but that may be the kind of opportunity that can allow Paxton to make the pass. Look at the damage he's got there. Losing grip, almost gets rear-ended there by Logan coming through the bottom corner there on the exit to the corkscrew section. So we're going to come up to the line this time by. We'll see if Logan's going to be able to make up some room. Logan's in the draft on him, no doubt going to push the pass. So is he going to go over? Is he going to go under? Are we going to see the first lead pass battle of the race? Or lead battle pass of the race, I should say. Logan decides to not go for it this time, but the question is, with dirt now in his tires, when will Andrew get all that grip back that he needs in order to maintain the spot ahead of Logan? So, 5 laps to go left in the stint, more than halfway through the race, but Andrew's weaving, trying to get back in a rhythm here, and took a little bit more dirt onto his tires that last time by, but I think he nailed the entry to that last corner and looks to have a good one through the hairpin this time. So he will start to break away once again. But as I was talking about, in addition to the very difficult schedule Logan will have in the final 2 races to round off the season if he wants to win the championship, we'll talk about the fact that Andrew Pedrosa, Michael Krobach, Devin Crosby, Rich Foligno, all our guys from the Lad Pedal Motorsports affiliate that all share, a team chat. They all coordinate the races together. It's one thing that I've prided him on in the past, but Logan is effectively, riding this thing solo. I mean, I think occasionally he's in talks with a couple of guys about strategy and things like that with, I think, guys like Justin Lowe maybe that he knows from karting. But, I mean, Logan is effectively a one-man wrecking crew here in this series. So the fact that he's been as quick as he has with very little help is or at least help from drivers in the series, it's absolutely impressive, and it's kind of makes him sort of an effective underdog in this playoffs, which, thinking about how successful he's been, won the most races, had the most poles, and then you think about last season where he utterly dominated en route to his first championship. The concept that, after tonight he's going to have a rough stint is almost seems too, I would say, too good to be true. But if it seems that obvious, it probably isn't with Logan, as he's getting quicker and quicker at the NASCAR ovals. So I'm not even going to claim to know what's going to happen in the next 2 races, especially not going to Daytona. Crocker Sr. will head into the pits this time. You see him in the corner of the screen. This is not a very good camera angle for pit entrances, but the 24 car, I haven't talked much about him today, but only sitting 2 laps back, appears to now be up to speed, and he's making better and better lap times on each and every stint. But while coming to the pits this time, might be his last pit stop of the race, depending on how he's able to treat his tires and his fuel. So Andrew continuing the lead from Logan Paxton. They're going to come through the final corner once again, and now only it'll be lap 38. It's only 3 laps to go left in the stint here. The question again is, does Logan Paxton really want that stint win that bad? Of course, we don't provide points here, so though it would be convenient for the championship leaders if they were able to get bonus points through leading coming into the yellow. We don't do that in this series, so the only advantage really being track position heading into the pit stops. And, you know, if one of these guys decides not to pit, well, there goes that advantage anyway. So Andrew's still not exactly pulling away, but he's not getting caught up to by Mr. Paxa either. So this kind of just shows me exactly how even these two guys are, unless one of them is running a strategy or whatever the reason may be. But these two guys have just been kind of lockstep the entire season. You think about Mid-Ohio, where they were running almost identical lap times, and I know that, at least from Andrew's perspective, we see somebody go around back in the field. Marshall Crocker Sr., I think, on new tires has gone around there at the bottom of the hill up towards the corkscrew. No significant damage, so he'll get back up to speed, and he'll avoid cars around him on the track, so good news for him. But, I mean, you talk about the relationship these two guys have. They've stayed virtually entirely clean the whole season. Logan Pax is going to come into the pits this time, right as I start talking about him and Andrew. But, into the pits he goes this time, so that was the last lap he was eligible to do so, as we're now to the white flag for the current stint. So Andrew's got one lap to go, and he will win the stint for the second time this race, as well Max Preston would have done just that, but unfortunately he did pit on the last lap of the previous stint, and as such lost himself the lead. But I mean, you think about the relationship these two guys have had. They've stayed relatively clean with each other all season, as Andrew's gotten more and more competitive, and they've battled more and more. But I don't know. I almost get the feeling that these two guys know they're the quickest at the road courses, and as such have a direct rivalry with each other, where I almost don't feel like that's the case with guys like Michael when they head to ovals. I mean, it's exciting when we come to these road courses, because it feels like there's this kind of ferocity that you don't see anywhere else. And well, part of road course racing is that you're able to take more risks, but I don't know. It's just exciting to watch, and in a way for me it feels more impactful when guys win at road courses in our series, knowing how much talent there is in this discipline. But with that being said, one more corner to go from Andrew Bedrosian, and he will win the second stage of this race. And coming into the second competition yellow, final corner, Andrew Bedrosian coming in at lap 40 will lead towards the second competition yellow of the race.
The most realistic online racing sim ever made. This is iRacing. Detailed laser scan tracks, fully dynamic real world cars, and over 50 series to choose from. 6 online world championships offering over $100,000 in annual prizes. This is the original esport racing game. This is iRacing.
I went to throw to a side-by-side graphic there and forgot entirely why I put them up in the first place, and it is because I had to throw the caution for our second competition yellow of the race. So 25 laps to go here as we come into this caution. Max Preston will exit the pits once again. Again, he is pitting on a lap in which he's ineligible to do so, which will need to be discussed post-race. But, for the time being, Max will come out third in line, unless, of course, Logan and Andrew pit, which is a genuine possibility. But Andrew will reform behind the pace car, and Logan pitting on the last lap he was eligible to do so will mean that effectively he'll take the race lead coming out of this next caution. But, Andrew will be on 2-lap newer tires. The question is how much, will those come into play with lap times, and how effective will new tires be as compared to older ones? Obviously, there is the downside of trying to warm up cold tires, but the advantage of competition yellows is usually you pit with 2 laps left in the yellow, so you have plenty of time to warm them up. Whereas Logan Paxa had to run a lap under cold tire conditions there, and did so pretty well. It didn't seem to lose any ground once he came out of the pits. So, Logan will form up second in the line. The question is, what will Andrew Bedrosian do? If he's confident enough in his strategy in terms of fuel, and he's confident enough he can race on old tires, which at a track like Laguna Seca would speak very highly to his confidence in his racing ability. But, if he does decide to do so, then that would mean that he will come out ahead of Logan, and your top 2 will be reformed. Michael Krobach did manage to stay on the lead lap in that last stint, so we will have 3 championship contenders as well as Max Preston on the lead lap. Devin Crosby has officially bowed out of this race on lap 28, so he will head out of the race, but that means that the 2 Guerras and Marshall Crocker will round out the top 7. John Guerra finishing out the top 5. They're only a lap down, so he will get the lucky dog pass again, and will head back onto the lead lap. And in the case that we get an incident from the top 3 or 4 guys that could mean his first, top 4, or maybe even his first podium in Karts Peters Racing Series history, which, again, in a race with 8 guys at a difficult track, anything can happen. I know that guys are as far back as 1, 2, or 3 laps there. There's nobody I would count out at this point that I won't be talking to in the interview booth, because, again, anything can happen at tracks like Laguna, Seca. And, really, I'm trying to think of other things to set up. Is really we're just waiting for guys coming to the pits. Andrew will last second dive down into pit road, so maybe playing some mind games on the guys behind him, maybe trying to get, I guess not Pax at a jump, but maybe trying to convince the guys behind him to come in. So Logan will complete his character arc, coming all the way from an incident early in the race all the way back up to the front of the pack on new tires. So it's just kind of what Logan Paxa does. You can never count him out of races in this series, and he's kind of like the Scott Dixon of our series for all you IndyCar fans, knowing that, well, for example, in a championship battle in the 2018 season, I'm just talking about IndyCar, but bear with me, I'm making a point in theory. But Scott Dixon a couple seasons ago, in the third to last race of the season, I believe, in his campaign to win the 2018 IndyCar Championship, quite literally got taken out in a crash in the first lap, stuck in a giant pile of dirt, surrounded by broken up cars on the outside of the track, got back on the track with dirty tires, made little changes to his car, I think had damaged the entirety of the race, and still finished second and won the championship. So basically, there are some guys like that you just never count into races, and I'd imagine they're the worst to race against in real life, because you can get whatever news you want from your pit crew and from your crew chief being like, so-and-so guys, got in a crash. You can never count anybody out, and I think Logan's one of those guys. So for Andrew, who is now trying to get some heat in those tires and catch back up and reform as the third car in line there on the lead pack, yeah, knowing that Logan had that incident earlier, I'd imagine it takes a lot of the pressure off, especially in a race without competition yellows. You can say, okay, he's gone. Let me focus on my race, try not to make the same mistakes. But now that he's back, I mean, that just speaks to how quick Logan is on his own, and catching up to him at the end of that stint, making up the room he needed to, making the pass almost immediately on Devin Crosby, who got in an incident at the start of the stint. It just kind of speaks to how quick Logan is, and I'd imagine he's a very terrifying force if you're a guy like Andrew Bedrosian or Max Preston trying to go for the race win, but maybe an incident like that makes somebody seem human. I know if the quickest guys I ever race against made a mistake earlier in the race, it would definitely take some of the worry off my mind. We're going to go green this time by a much quicker pace car than we had the last time by, so Logan Paxa will take the field to green for the second time in tonight's race, and for the final time as we get ready to go green for the final time here at Mazda WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca. Some lap cars in the line. Marshall Crocker Sr. sitting second in the lead of the pack line there, but green flag for Logan Paxa, final time in tonight's race. Flying by the start-finish line, huge jump to the guys behind him. Look at the gap he's formed already to Marshall Crocker Sr. behind, who sits effectively second in line. He's going to let the guys by who are battling for position, including Max Preston and Andrew Bedrosian. Andrew, you can see in the back of your screen, going to go side by side with Max all the way around the inside. Great move by Andrew if he's able to make it work. He does, and is able to hit the curb as well. So oftentimes the worry is, when you make a move as aggressive as that on cold tires, that you can lose all your traction for the next corner, but Andrew makes it through. So Andrew Bedrosian up into second place again. And now the battle restarts, sitting about 2.4 seconds back of Logan, who, again, got a great jump, and part of the advantage to having lap cars, he's going to hit the gravel a little bit as well. So like Andrew a moment ago, if you get in a little bit of gravel, it can absolutely mess up your grip for a couple of corners, and looks like he'll make it through the course group pretty safely. But look at his timing tower gap starting to drop. What was that? I totally lost my train of thought there. But Andrew will make the pass on Max Preston. But as I was saying, talk about the jump he got. And part of the disadvantage to having lap cars ahead of you is oftentimes they're either going to try to let you out of the way, or they're going to genuinely be slower and usually get off the start a little bit slower. So unfortunately for Andrew, just wasn't able to bunch up to the back. And you got to wonder if he made the same fuel strategy decision as Logan did, and he came in 2 laps before the competition yellow, would he not have been in that situation? There's always the possibility. So, effectively your top 3 now would become Paxa, Bedrosian, and Preston, meaning Michael Krobach would be the odd man out of the top 3 on the podium, which you don't see too often from Mr. Michael Krobach. I think he's only missed the podium twice or 3 times this season in our series in official races. I believe 3 to be exact. So often he does make it into that top 3, but Max Preston, I am impressed with the number 8 car for JM Motorsports there, or I guess MJ Motorsports, provided that Justin Luke won't be here. But Max Preston has just had a great race for himself tonight, and he got his first podium last week in the Skip Barber Series, but based on the lap times I saw him run in practice earlier in the season, and my understanding of his experience here on iRacing, IndyCar is always going to be a strength of his, and he is showing that right now. Still making up time to Andrew. I think he got about maybe 3 or 4 tenths there that last lap by. So Max is still pulling away from both of them, and their number one priority really has to be catching up to him if they want any hope of winning tonight's race. But Max is not making it easy on the championship contender of Andrew Bedrosian. And again, points aren't based off of the other championship drivers around you. They are solely the literal points you would get in any other race in our series from getting the position you're assigned. So, I mean, Max would kind of throw as the British would say, throw a spanner in the works of the guys behind him. Sitting in third there. He's holding Michael Krobach out of a championship podium spot, which podiums in our series are, the way the points are set up, are worth more than positions outside. The gap, I think you only lose points by intervals of 3 points, and then it drops back to 2 after that. So each individual point from 4th to maybe 8th is a lot closer than 1 to 3. So, well, Max is not going to make it easy, but again, he's not losing ground to Andrew Bedrosian there, the 22 red and black car of Bedrosian and the orange and black and blue car of Max Preston. But maybe we'll switch it up here and go on board here with Max Preston just to see exactly what he's looking at. But at a track as difficult as Laguna Seca, with so many maybe high-speed or low-speed sections, so often guys have certain abilities that cater to specific sections of track. And you talk about, what's a real-life example in my case? I maybe think about Spa-Francorchamps, because we went there early in our season. You think about the low-speed kind of middle section of that track, so many sweeping left and right-hand corners with lots of downshifts and many braking points. Stuff like that is, I think, where I'm specifically, pretty capable. I think I'm pretty able to keep up the speed with gear shifts and stuff like that in low-speed turns. But sometimes high-speed corners, hitting apexes and stuff, sometimes that's where I falter comparatively to other drivers in a lot of the series I run in. And that's just kind of how guys work. I mean, in certain sections, you have skills that cater more towards parts of the track. I mean, think about this uphill section we're coming up to as we come towards the corkscrew. This really fast, high-speed, high apex left corner. It's absolutely brutal on tires. If you hit that apex too hard, you're going to put yourself around. Max coming in with a ton of speed into the corkscrew, coming off into the dirt a little bit. He's going to have some dirt in his tires to make the next couple corners, I should say. Yeah, he's going to take it intentionally, conservatively in order to make it properly. He is going all the way down to first. What is his plan? I guess he's just being super careful with his tires. As I guess at this point, as we see Andrew breaking away by about 3 seconds as a result of that incident, I guess his new thought is, okay, well, Michael's about 3 seconds back. Let's go for our second straight podium. And, doing little moves like that just to try to avoid trying to risk your now very gravelly, dirty, lack of grip tires is probably for the best if he wants any hope of maintaining his podium here. So, but that's just what I'm talking about. Some guys have more proficiency in certain sections, and if I had to make an approximation as to the style of 2 guys we're seeing at the lead of the pack in our race so far, so Logan Paxa and his experience in our series, actually we'll go on board with him quite fittingly as we talk about him. But race leader Logan Paxa, think about his experience, not only from karting, which Andrew doesn't come from a karting background, whereas Logan does. Karting so often can be about hitting a lot of low-speed apexes, but also about maintaining speed through several streaks of corners at once. And I would approximate then that, kind of the trickier technical low-speed sections of tracks where it's all about, hitting apexes and timing braking points and stuff like that. I think that's where Logan would be specifically able and capable. Whereas you talk about Andrew Bedrosian, I think he's less so focused on the, hitting braking points part and the making quick little, steering moves and small adjustments. I mean, he comes from a dirt background, so... Sorry, I shouldn't say, I can't confirm dirt. I believe he comes from a dirt background, but he's definitely more of an oval guy where he comes from several series where things like throttle control are very key and high-speed little adjustments. I think he's more of a high-speed corners guy, whereas Logan Pax is more of a technical low-speed corners guy. So as we come through this section, Logan's coming through right now with lots of, lefts and rights with very tight apexes, but also very high-speed sections. I mean, think of the speeds you're going through some of these corners. I think this is where Andrew would ride specifically as compared to Logan. And I've noticed specifically at this apex here, Logan nailed it that time by, but Andrew's been specifically quick through here all race. So it's interesting to note. It's just, the ways that these guys have grown up racing in the series they've been through, how differently it can make their driving styles. And it's something that, maybe it's not something official that you can cognitively see, but it's something that I kind of notice over the course of a season, and I say, okay, well, whenever I watch these guys in battles, or whenever I just focus on them lap by lap and how they hit their marks, it's interesting. Everybody just a little bit different, and it's kind of the beauty of this series, taking guys from real life series. Is actually, you see Andrew gets on the push to pass this time, so hence the little green outline on his black box in the middle of the steering wheel. But meaning that, yeah, he is trying to make up ground to Logan quick, and he's actually got a couple of tenths that last time by, but missed the apex a little bit on corner 1. But yeah, it's because the whole point of the Karts Computer Series at the beginning being that, you know, taking guys that would rather be running in real life, no matter what discipline, and putting them over to computers. I mean, Karts Computers meaning that karts were probably the ideal discipline I was referring to, but, you know, the fact that Andrew comes from the States and comes from a, I believe, quarter midget series background, yeah, that's kind of the beauty of how iRacing works, is you don't have any qualifications of where you need to have come from. You just need to be quick and able on the simulator. So it's kind of beautiful in a way. And I'm probably going to get more sappy and more, you know, looking back, retrospective as we get towards the end of the season. Is at least in its current format, I think this will be the end of the Karts Computers Racing Series after the season. I will again talk about my other commitments to the other broadcast series that will include some of these drivers. Absolutely, these guys will all be getting invites to the series I try to put together in the future. But making up another second that time by was Andrew Bedrosian. Maybe we'll put the lap times as he comes across. Let's just pull his name down there and throw up the lap times. What did guys run that last time by? So Andrew Bedrosian running his quickest lap of the race in lap 48, the quickest period there. Running a, what was it there? Oh, I know I got to do math. Okay, let's just throw the the best lap time there on the left. Best lap time of the race. It's in a purple font, so it's hard to read, but a 1:09.3. So I don't think anybody ran a lap that quick in practice. So the fact that he ran one in a race with, I would assume, increased fuel amounts, which would affect and hinder your straight line speed in tandem. But Andrew's made up a second and a half these last couple laps, and I'd imagine Logan's being much more conservative and pacifistic on the push-to-pass button than Andrew is. But, you know, Andrew's doing everything he can to try to make up ground, and if you can just put pressure on the guy in front of you. We saw it earlier with Logan's incident in corner 1 earlier in the race, but even if you're not directly being, you know, pushed in a battle sense, like you don't have a guy right behind you, even just the subtle pressure of a guy trying to chase you down and knowing you have to hit every mark perfectly in order to stay ahead, sometimes that's enough that it can throw guys off. And I'm not assuming that was what led to Logan's incident earlier. And if he finishes on the podium, I'll have to mention it in his interview and see what happened there. But Marshall Crocker Sr. is going to dive to the outside to let Andrew Bedrosian by and continue that top 2 battle for the lead. But what was I saying? Lost my train of thought again. But yeah, that's just kind of the question is when you're in a battle with somebody else, is it more important to just kind of be there and be present and put pressure on them? Or is the fact that Logan's conserving all his push to passes for the end, does that give him more confidence as well? Being like, okay, well, even if you catch up, I know I am quicker, and I know I ran the qualifying pull out, and I know I have the speed that if I'm able to just focus and hit my marks, I am a faster on paper car. So it's again, it's a lot of mind games that maybe aren't as apparent if you're just watching the broadcast cheering for somebody, but from a driver's perspective, absolutely, it's a lot of stuff to factor into your mind and be like, okay, well, you know, what do I have to convince myself of in my head to make myself the most confident, to stay the most focused? And it's something that I'd imagine real life racing is even tougher, because trying to keep all these things in mind, trying to make decisions while racing in a real life car going 300 kilometers an hour into a corner like the hairpin you see on your screen now. Yeah, I'd imagine it would be a very different experience, which is why one day I hope, definitely bucket list item, I hope to run in any sort of Formula car, whether it obviously not be an Indy car or something, but just some sort of Formula car. I know I'm never going to have a racing career, but that's the kind of thing that I think about at night and I go, okay, well, put myself in the shoes of a real life racing driver. You know, what kind of stuff would they be experiencing? And I don't know. Sometimes this turns into a podcast, and I apologize, ladies and gentlemen, but you know, occasionally when guys spread out a little bit, I got to find stuff to mention. We've got a couple laps, so I'll throw the track map back up. But for some reason, the Laguna Seca track map takes up a ton of the screen, so I'm trying to use it a little bit sparingly, just to leave as much of the track open or the screen open as possible for the actual footage. But the 2 leaders are coming up to the 2 Diabolic Motorsports tandem of Jean and Manuel Guerra, respectively. So hopefully they are able to make it past, if they are able, or if they catch up to them in pretty quick manner, as the last thing I want to see is this battle get interrupted by guys getting in the way. But Andrew's actually starting to slip back a little bit. I think he was about 5/10 slower that last lap. You got to wonder, is he out of push to passes? Because every driver gets 10 for the entire race as a whole. So in theory, well, you'd want to use one every 6.5 laps. But I think Andrew was based on the lap times he was showing, I think he was using them pretty aggressively there. So if indeed he's running out, or maybe Logan's starting to use his again, well, now it becomes even tougher if you're an Andrew Bedrosian either fan or if you're him himself to say, okay, well, why is this happening? And how can I, change my line and maybe get more aggressive while still, of course, keeping the championship points in mind? Because, I mean, you got to think Andrew is very aware of his abilities and certain. Logan's going to take a little bit of damage on his front wing. One of the Diabolique Motorsports cars, that was Manuel Guerra, went around in the corkscrew. I think Andrew gets by pretty clean. The damage appears to be gone visually, but you saw very quickly that he blipped in and out. His front wing looked like it collapsed a little bit on him, but just barely making contact with Manuel. That'll lose him the 0 incident points bonus, which I guess he would have lost before with the spin. But, yeah, I mean, you got to think Andrew is very cognizant of his abilities in this series and in iRacing in general. He knows he's an oval guy, and he knows that in theory Logan isn't. So you got to wonder, okay, is he just like, hey, let's take the points here, let's focus on the future, and then we'll see what we can do in the final 2 rounds where I feel more at home. Or is he like, no? I mean, he's a very passionate sportsman, or what's the word I'm looking for? Competitive guy. He is going to go for whatever position he can, and he's starting to make up ground a little bit now. Now the question is that as a result of damage on Logan's part, or is that just because he hit a couple of corners better? You never really know is the issue. I mean, F1 in real life is coming up with crazy graphics that tell you specifically crazy performance stuff like that, but I'm not going to pretend to know. So it'll be 10 laps to go this next time by, but Andrew making up another couple of tenths that last time up the hill. I would presume he once again used another push to pass because, well, reasonably, if they come up a straightaway, great dodge by Logan. John Guerra moved to the outside there to let him by, but Logan had to make a pretty quick maneuver there to get by him. So Logan is dialed in, making whatever moves he needs to. Whatever moves he needs to get by people. But the second he's finished with that, he's right snap back into his line and back to hitting his marks. So it'll be 11 laps to go, not 10, as I've deceptively learned in the past. It would make sense, wouldn't it, for the race to just end when the final lap starts? But no, unfortunately not. We do have 11 more laps to go in tonight's race, but Logan's going to take a little maneuver off to the outside of the track, as does Andrew behind him. Logan's going to do it again, so they are just scrubbing every little bit of this outside grass, I should say this outside dirty section off. So, yeah, I mean, the more times you do that, it can build up dirt and a lack of grip. So Logan's got to keep the car under him coming up towards the corkscrew. But look at the dirt buildup in that corner. I'm going to maybe get head on board with the guy going by it. But yeah, you see John Guerra just getting a little piece of it as he comes up towards the corkscrew. But well, as the dirt builds up, and you can even just see it there, even on the inside come through that corner. But the more guys come off and on and bring more and more dirt onto the track, it can have a huge effect on how you take each and every lap and where your braking points are. Because if you're going to go through a dirty patch, well, you got to make sure the car is slowed down in order to accommodate for it. And it's something that definitely kind of unique to Laguna Seca, as a lot of traditional road courses don't have the same issue, because tracks with grass on the outside don't have the same problem because you don't get nearly as much build-up. 10 laps to go this time by the way. But yeah, think about tracks like Spa earlier this season, where all the runoff is either dirt, which if you get in, you're done anyway. You're just heading off the track, or it's grass, which is a lot harder to bring back onto the track surface. But the dirt, again, we'll see it coming up the hill this time. Keep an eye out as we come up. You see on the outside line there, but the most prevalent part is after this left-hand kink coming up the hill. Just look at the dirt buildup that builds up as more and more guys have incidents here, and look at it. It's like the road is thinning out, because effectively you can't run far enough to the outside that you get in it, because then you lose grip coming up to the corkscrew, and you see a couple of guys slide through it, like we've already seen Max Preston do earlier this race. But important to know, and enough talking about the track geography itself. 10 laps to go. Logan is actually starting to lose ground once again to Andrew Bedrosian. Andrew's going to lose a couple of tenths that time through the left and right hander after the corkscrew, but well, with only 9 laps to go this time by, it's still anybody's race. And again, the question is, I don't have a graphic for it, but I really wish I did. But the question is, how many push to passes do these two guys have left? Is, well, if you use them on a proper straightaway, one that's long enough, I'd say you can get an easy 3 to 5 tenths on any given straightaway, depending on when you time it and how well you use it. But if that happens to be the case for these guys, I mean, say Andrew has 3 more than Logan happens to, but he's effectively made his way up there already. So, well, actually, he's lost about 3 or 4 tenths since the last time they came through that corner. So, again, maybe it just is maybe it just is that push to pass, and Andrew is genuinely losing time. And if that happens to be the case, well, this thing is as good as over, because later on tires and this late in a stint, if you're starting to struggle, you're probably going to continue to do so. And again, he's just kind of losing a little bit of ground every corner he's done the last couple. Didn't seem to lose ground in the straightaway, making me think that Logan is still not using his push to passes. But yeah, I mean, Andrew's going to have to throw something together in these last couple laps if he wants any shot at the win here. Coming down to, this will be 8 laps to go. Again, still a tough battle ahead of him. Maybe we're going to go to a very brief commercial with the last couple of laps, as we're going to take one final break before the end of tonight's festivities and our interviews. So we're going to do a quick side-by-side. We're going to keep you tuned into the racing action and see if Andrew is able to make up the ground he needs to Logan Paxa to win the first round of the 2020 Karts Racing Series Season 2 playoffs at Mazda Raceway, Laguna Seca.
The most realistic online racing sim ever made. This is iRacing. Detailed laser scan tracks, fully dynamic real-world cars, and over 50 series to choose from. 6 online world championships offering over $100,000 in annual prizes. This is the original esport racing game. This is iRacing.
And we're back for the final time for the 2020 Karts Racing Series season postseason opener, I should say, at Laguna Seca. Now, checking the time tower since the last time we checked, really no change from Logan Paxa and Andrew Bedrosian. Andrew's still not making up a significant amount of time, but well, we'll keep that timing tower in the back of our mind. But now let's head back to the guy who, well, with only 7 laps to go, looks like he's almost made his way to his second podium of the season, second consecutively, Mr. Max Preston. The question after last week, really, with Woody Mahan having such a great race as well, is, well, have the new guys caught up? I mean, have the less experienced guys in the series been here long enough to kind of get the confidence and get the gist that they're able to have the pace that some of the quicker long-time guys that have had success in the series for a long time have had? And I was wondering, okay, well, is this going to be the influx of new guys? Are we going to start seeing guys like Rich Foligno come away with a win? Devin Crosby, who's come so close several times. But, well, Woody not being here kind of put the kibosh on that. But, well, Max Preston, for the time being, is making his name in the series once again. And he's actually gaining a little bit of ground this time by, but so is Andrew Bedrosian. So we'll have to head up to the lead battle in just a second, as Andrew came within about 1.1 seconds that last time by with only 6 to go. But, yeah, I mean, Max hasn't really contended for the lead at any point tonight. I mean, he was close at the start of the first stint, but, I mean, since then it's been apparent that the 1 in the 22 car have really had all the pace tonight. But, I mean, yeah, I'm curious to see in the final 2 races where he's not necessarily a NASCAR guy, but he's somebody that when I do a future racing commitment, which I'll kind of soft reveal one of the concepts I've been toying around with was for a Skip Barber Winter Series, specifically based around IndyCar tracks. So it would be the entire IndyCar calendar of road courses similar to this one, including Laguna Seca, but run in the Skip Barber Series, and it would be open to anybody. I would put out a very long campaign to see who I could get for my racing, get as big of a turnout as possible. But, well, the concept of maybe a 30-driver iRacing Skip Barber Series in terms of race quality, that would be absolutely great. So definitely something to consider. Andrew Bedrosian in the background. What in the world did we just miss? Logan Paxa is still your race leader. He's got significant damage and dirt buildup in that car. Andrew's got significant damage and dirt as well. What in the world did we just miss? And how will it affect Max Preston, who we were on board with a moment ago? So how did he make up that much ground? I lost track of the timing tower for a second, and in that time, Andrew must have made up a full second. But coming down the corkscrew, Andrew looked like he peeked to the inside, made the tap there, so Logan loses ground, heads off the track. Both are going to spin. Logan manages to recollect himself. What a save from Logan Paxa. Andrew with the janked up front left wing. He's getting back up to speed, but there's Max Preston in the background. We'll go check live with where he is, but has Max made the pass? He has not currently, but look at the front left wing of Andrew Bedrosian. He's losing ground to Logan. Actually, he's making up a ton of ground right now. I'm wondering if Logan's come off the track. But what in the world did we just... Because we talked about it at Mid-Ohio. We saw these two get in a very similar incident, And I was just saying, I mean, they've been fairly clean throughout the rest of the season. Logan is losing time massively. Andrew's just going to head straight by on the outside. Logan's trying to block. Huge damage from these two cars. And Logan's going to cut off the corkscrew. He is not making it easy. Going to slide in front of Bedrosian. Look at Preston. Preston's going to go to the outside of Paxa. He has nothing to do with this battle. He's going to go around Paxa, and Bedrosian still got damaged. So Preston is in the catbird seat. We were on board with him a moment ago. It'll be 4 to go next time by the line. Paxa has to come in. What a shame for the former race leaders. We're going to have to break all this down in just a moment. Now, is Michael Krobach going to gain a position from that? Look at where he is on the track map, the number 4 car. But Max he doesn't have any damage. He's got all the confidence now. Everything's playing right into his hand. So now Max Preston, who hasn't had a realistic battle for position all race, now could go for the lead on a car with a very damaged front left wing, just as a result of the chaos that happens from certain racing incidents with drivers as competitive as this. Now Michael will pass Logan, so huge championship implications if that stays the way it is. And seeing as Logan is now just exiting his pit stall, but look at how far ahead Michael has already broken away on the track map. So, well, it looks like Michael has now guaranteed himself yet another last-second podium here at a road course. But, well, now can Max Preston make the pass on Andrew and decrease his number of points he'll be able to take away here from Laguna Seca, which, I mean, honestly, after an incident like that, you got to wonder, okay, does he deserve it if he's going to have a mistake similar to Logan's earlier? And, I mean, at this point, it's anybody's battle between these two. As Max, I mean, again, he hasn't quite showed the same long-run pace that the top guys have, but if Andrew has significant enough damage that it'll cause him to lose track space, with 3 laps to go, this thing might not be over. And the other question is, Logan with an entirely new race car and new tires. I know it's only 3 laps, but 13 seconds, I wouldn't put past him to see if he can make up ground to Michael Krobach. But, well, we'll see if that 6/10 gap on the timing tower gets any smaller. Again, look at the front left wing of Andrew Bedrosian. This is going to be one of the most damaged race cars we've had all season win a race here in this series if he's able. Coming up the hill here towards the corkscrew. This is a great camera angle, so we're just going to leave these shots here. And, well, up the hill we come. Andrew still trying to pull away from Max Preston behind him. Now the gap's down to 3.5 seconds. Max might be on the push to pass here coming up the hill. He'll definitely be on the draft, but will he make a move coming up to the corkscrew? Decides not to. Andrew looks like he's sliding through a little bit more than Max Preston behind him is with the damaged race car he has. So 2 to go next time by the line. Going to come through 2 more turns, and then it'll be the penultimate lap of tonight's race. Again, Max is sitting right there. That gap is not breaking at all, but the gap not getting bigger doesn't necessarily solve Max's problem of being behind. So 2 laps to go. It's the Aero McLaren number 8 car there, the orange and black entry of Preston, and the 22 black and red entry of Bedrosian. Going to come through the long sweeping hairpin, the second to last time. Andrew running a little bit tighter than Max did there. Max will lose a little bit of ground there. And important to note, on the other front, Krobach has already lost about 2 seconds to Logan Paxa. So if Logan's able to put together 2 incredible laps, might be able to get back in the podium spots if he runs an almost perfect final 2 laps. But Preston's still trying. He's getting closer and closer, and this would already be an improvement on his best ever finish in the series, which was, of course, last week, finishing 3rd at Roval. But you got to think he wants to go for the win tonight, and will he be able to make up ground coming up the hill? He's going to have to run an absolutely perfect final lap if he wants to get him, if he's unable to get him through the section here. Making up a ton of ground there, getting within 3/10 this time by. Going to be 1 lap to go the next time by. Somebody just went through the dirt a little bit and is going to have a little bit of loss of grip. Not sure who that would be. I think if I had to guess, it was Andrew Bedrosian. So it'd be about 5/10, about half a second gap as we come through the final time. A white flag here at Laguna Seca. One of the best battles we've ever seen between 2 guys that just a couple of laps ago I never would have guessed would be battling. We're going to pull the track map down. We're going to focus on the top 2 in tonight's race. Bedrosian versus Preston, who will come away with the win. Preston way better this time through the exit of the second corner there. Still within about 3/10. Bedrosian still got damage. Will Preston be able to make that gap up? Gets in the dirt very quickly, but again, this thing is not over. Coming up the hill, let's see if we can get a little bit of a wider shot just so we can get a better idea of how much room Preston is able to make up here. This is the closest he's been coming up the hill. Is he going to make a super aggressive move into the corkscrew? What is his plan? Both making pretty good apexes. Preston's was even better, though, now within 2.5 Still making up ground. Is he going to go to the inside, the outside? What is the plan? Might think about sending it up the inside. They both make it through clean. Isn't able to make the move, but a couple more corners left. Gets on the gas quicker. Thought about a trip to the outside. Isn't able to make it work. Is going to have a better run off the apex this time. Going to dive to the outside. Back to the inside. Side by side. 2 to go. Preston has the inside line. Gets squeezed. Still got the inside. Is he going to send it? Decides to not. Bedrosian runs off. Bedrosian's going to run through Max Preston. Second race in a row. We have a new race winner, both of whom from JM Motorsports. Max Preston will win at Laguna Seca. What a finish. Bedrosian gets back on the track after sliding through and comes away with the second. But Michael Krobach will hold off for third after Logan was unable to make up that gap that he had from the incident with Bedrosian a moment ago. But what a chaotic final couple laps to the race. Congratulations to Max Preston, second new race winner in a row. My God, what an insane finish to that race. I mean, we're going to have to do an entire replay of that final couple of corners, and Logan Paxton, the number 1 car, will finish off the race. And sincerely a shame for him, as again, he was probably the guy that had the most pace out of anybody. I mean, he was your pole sitter. He was quick all race, so it's a shame to see that he won't come away with the win. But wow, Max Preston, congratulations to him. Hopefully a good sportsmanlike showing here between the top 2. But well, what are the odds in a field of 8 guys where 4 of them are competing for a championship that none of them come away with the win, and Max Preston, kind of the dark horse, will upset and win the whole thing? And yeah, we're with these 2 guys very fittingly on screen right now. We're just going to pull all your graphics down and go to a replay there of a little bit earlier. But again, I just want to break down those final couple of turns, because effectively I thought Preston had the run that he could have made the pass there for the win legitimately without any of the chaos that happened through the final couple of corners. So let's go all the way back. We're going to go to a camera shot after the corkscrew here. A chopper shot, I should say. So here's the chopper view after the corkscrew. Actually, a great one here at Laguna Seca. The camera angles here are insane. So look at Preston. Gets a way better run off the apex here with 3 corners to go. Gets to the outside of Bedrosian. Bedrosian's going to squeeze his nose off a little bit. Heads to the outside. Gets a car length on Preston. Bedrosian just loses focus of the corner. Preston gets back on the gas quicker. Just didn't commit as far and didn't send it in as far. And got back on the track quicker and won the thing. Like that's the thing I was talking about earlier, is when you put pressure on a guy, whether you make an official move or not, as Preston didn't. I mean, he backed off. He lost the spot here, didn't even try to go for the send up the inside, just said, okay, I'm unable to make this pass. Didn't matter. I mean, Andrew just got distracted trying to hold off that spot and headed to the outside, and that was all Max needed to get his first win of the series. Going to go live to him, see if he's doing some celebrations as we speak. He is not currently, but well, we're going to have to talk to both those gentlemen and see exactly what their take on that final incident was there. But see Andrew heading into the pits, but what's Max's celebration plan? He's just going to kind of do like a victory weave back and forth. Logan just jumped over Andrew Bedrosian in the pits. My good. Okay, wait a minute. Now is the question, was that like meant to be retaliatory? Was that meant to make a statement? I don't know. But as 2 guys who have not only had a couple of incidents this season, but had multiple, I think, this race, was that out of anger there for Logan Pat? He just went straight into him. I'm not sure what message that sends. We'll have to maybe break that down either after after these celebrations here are done or in a future broadcast. But hey, Max's cone pet is back. Exciting news there. Only a fitting way to end off this broadcast. But, well, man, we talked about him so seldom, but what a finish for him. That's kind of the perfect shot. We should just keep that for his interview. So we're going to go to your final results here. Let's just, now that we got all that figured out, here are your final race results for the 8 drivers in tonight's race. Of course, your race winner tonight for the first time all series and all season, Max Preston becomes the 8th race winner in Karts Computers Racing Series history, winning by about a second half ahead of Andrew Bedrosian. Of course, that final lap pass with, well, I guess it was a clean move technically. Nothing illegal there on Max Preston's part. He didn't do anything wrong. It was just 2 guys so focused on the battle with each other that they, well, you guys saw the incident. I'm not even going to try to break that down until the interviews. But Andrew Bedrosian will come across the line in second for, I think, the 6th or 7th time this season. Second just seems to be his kind of domain there. And well, if he wants any hope at the championship, he's going to have to, I guess, break that habit. But honestly, he got the most points of anybody in the championship grid tonight, and might be the new championship points leader heading into Daytona next week. But after that, Michael Krobach rounded out the top 3, and again, I mentioned it before, but so often Michael just seems to sneak in the last-second podiums here in road course races in our series, and he's done so again tonight, coming away with a podium spot. So congratulations to Michael Krobach. But after that, Logan Paxa in the 4th spot, who I mean, your pole sitter, arguably the quickest of the race, running great lap times all night. It was a shame to see that he couldn't come away with the win tonight. And well, best of luck to him in the final 2 races. I mean, he's probably going to drop to second in the points. He was coming in with the most points as a result of being the top seeded driver, but I think he'll maybe move back a spot or 2 heading into Daytona. So he's got his work cut out for him with 2 Oval Masters sitting ahead and presumably behind him with Bedrosian and Krobach to boot. So best of luck to Logan in the final 2 races. Again, great performance today. It's a real shame that I won't be able to talk to him in the interview booth, as yeah, just bad luck for him in that earlier incident. And I'm not even going to try to break incidents down, as I don't do that in this series. As both a commentator who's trying to stay impartial to things and the guy who runs the series, I never want to break down incidents like that. So, well, that'll round out your top 4. But rounding out your top 5, John Guerra, I think, will come away with his 4th or 5th top 5 of the season. Good performance for him. So his hope to win the kind of best of the rest championship, as we've dubbed it, gets even better. Marshall Crocker Sr. will come away with the 6th place position in tonight's race. Sitting only a couple laps back there at John, but pretty good performance for him tonight. I mean, seeing how quick the top guys were, anybody who's able to finish the race on only 2 quick repairs is, well, they've done a good service in my books. Is, again, Laguna Seca, one of the toughest tracks in all of iRacing. But after that, Manuel Guerra will round out the top 7, who I think headed out earlier as a result of quick repairs. I think he had an incident that he was just unable to repair his car from. And Devin Crosby, who left very early in the event, not I think as a result of quick repairs. I think he just got frustrated with the early spin that he suffered at the beginning of stage 2. And, well, as a championship driver, that won't totally help his points. But, again, he's a good NASCAR driver, and you can never count him out of the final 2 rounds of Daytona and Darlington. So, with that being said, that'll round out your race results for tonight's race. And we will head to your interviews in just a moment here. And I know sometimes the server likes to reset my my simulator before we head into the interviews, and maybe we'll lose this image, but for the time being, it's perfect. So hopefully it's still up when we get the chance to interview Max Preston. But for the time being, let's head to your first interview of the night with 3rd place finisher Michael Krobach. Hey, Michael, it's Marshall in the booth. You got me?
Hey, Marshall, how's it going?
Oh, it's going pretty well. How about yourself? I mean, coming away with a 3rd place spot tonight in your push for a championship here. I know you're more of an oval guy than a road course guy. So how does it feel tonight to come away with a podium spot in a race with as much chaos up front ahead of you as there was?
Yeah, I had some good luck and some bad luck there. The first pit stop, the pit crew did not put fuel in the car. I don't know why. I don't know if it was a glitch or what happened there, but that put me behind the 8 ball, and I was really worried I'd be down a lap there when it cycled out. I had to push really, really hard under green to stay on the lead lap and just kind of see what happened at the end. And it's a better result than I was hoping for, or than I anticipated. I mean, I knew Logan and Andy would be really strong. They've been practicing like 24/7, and we rolled up for a couple hours of practice last night, and that's basically all I had time for. So I was just hoping to minimize the point loss here, and we actually gained on Paxa. And as much as I wanted to see Andy win the race for the team, it's a better points night for me if Max got the win. So just it all worked out.
Yeah, it certainly did. And again, it seems like every time you say that you don't feel prepared coming into a race, you finish with a 3rd place spot exactly. So maybe that should just be the strategy going forward, as whenever you don't feel great about a track, just don't practice and you're guaranteed to get a 3rd place spot. But overall, I mean, coming to a track that we've come to before. I mean, think of all the way back to round 2 of last season in the Skip Barber. It's been a long time, but if you remember anything about the Skip Barber race, how does Laguna Seca and the IndyCar compare to stuff you've done this season at any IndyCar races? And was this particularly tougher than learning tracks like Watkins Glen in the IR18 or things like that? Or how would you stack it up difficulty-wise to other tracks we've run so far?
Yeah, I'd say this was definitely one of the hardest tracks that we've run all year. I think this is harder than the Nürburgring and the Skip Barber. The car does not suit my driving style. Just I find you got to be really, really light on the brakes and back up the corner entry. You can't really hustle it too hard, or you're locking the front axle or you're locking the rear axle, and I can't quite get that balance. I think maybe with a lot more seat time I could eventually figure it out. Or getting me mad. I mean, that when the pit crew didn't put gas in the car, I came back out on track and we picked up 2 seconds just being ticked off. So I think the key to me on a road course is to fire me up for whatever reason. when the pit crew makes a mistake, and then we'll go put some fast laps on. But yeah, the elevation changes are really tricky. The blind corners, the corkscrew is really tough. So Max definitely earned that win, and Andy had a hell of a fight up front there, and Logan too, just with the speed that those guys had. So they all did a great job. This is a really tough track, really tough car. But I'm happy to come away with a decent result and nail that pit strategy. I knew that I did some practice yesterday, and I worked the fuel numbers, and the fuel run was like 24.6 laps. And I knew with the caution with 25 to go, you really had to pit under that yellow. So when I saw some guys come down before the caution came out, I figured that wouldn't work for them. Just crunching the numbers with the team. So hats off to the team for putting the practice together, getting the setup right, and a fun race and fun to minimize the deficit and gain a little bit on Logan, and we'll see what we got on the NASCAR tracks.
Yeah, speaking of which, I mean, you'll have to talk to your pit crew guys before Daytona, because it's one of those tracks that, provided we get enough green flag racing, which depending on how many guys we have there, that's a race where I honestly don't know what to expect, because you think about Talladega to start our season and how chaotic that race was. I mean, you think about the finish to that race where you won to start off the season, but my goodness, it was in style with that last lap crash between the top three drivers. But I mean, you think about the chaos of a race like Talladega, and then you think of races like Pocono or Michigan, where we went entirely caution-free the entire time. Heading to a super speedway like Daytona, especially as it pertains to the championship points, like what kind of race are you expecting? What are you preparing for round 13 at Daytona?
Yeah, my strategy at Talladega was to just ride in the back and save the car and not lead a lot of laps and not be flashy or anything like that for the race, and just be there at the end and not use the faster pairs up. And it worked out, but I think for the championship run here, I think it's going to require something different. I think my plan is to get up front and lead as many laps as I can, and if we need a backup car, we need a backup car. But I think just with the way the bonus points work, leading laps and leading the most laps is just as important as, fastest lap, clean race. So I think it'll be a bit of both. I mean, I want to stay up front. I think we're probably going to have wrecks, just the way the bumpers don't necessarily line up perfectly with the Cup cars. Daytona is probably a bit rougher of a surface than Talladega is, but at least you don't have a little divot on the apron in the tri-oval. So it's, again, a catch-22 there. I don't really know if we'll have more wrecks. It really depends on the field size, probably. If we get a big turnout like we're hoping for, I think it'll be it might be an exciting show. Hopefully we'll have some three-wide racing. Hopefully some close action, not too many flips and barrel rolls, as Devin always sends me the barrel roll video. But I think I'll try to manage staying out front, and then maybe getting a couple really hot draft laps to maybe get that fastest lap.
Sounds like a plan. And yeah, I mean, in a race where it's unpredictable as that, I hadn't even considered it. But yeah, I mean, maximizing bonus points has got to be a strategy going forward. Now, one thing to mention before we go to your shout-outs there, Rich Felino, who was unable to make tonight's race, one of our championship contenders, which unfortunately I think will probably seal the fact that he has a borderline impossible road to win the championship at this point, at least individually. But speaking from the team side, which I don't talk about in interviews too much, you guys are the current championship team's leaders. And I was checking the points today. When you do all the resets and everything, Logan Motorsports is surprisingly close behind. I think they were 34 points behind earlier, and you'll gain ahead of Logan comparatively today. But what do you think in terms of the team's championship? I mean, you and Rich were working together perfectly at Talladega, so do you expect that same kind of chemistry to carry over to Daytona? And just what's your confidence for the rest of the season in the team's championship?
Yeah, I'll definitely help Rich when I can, and get him out front and just try to maximize our finish with the two cars. I think it'll help that Rich has run a lot of races. I know Logan Motorsports has been kind of part-time a little bit with their second car, so I think that'll help. I'm not too worried about the team's championship. I'm confident in Rich's ability, and I'll see if I can get him up front when I can. But the main focus is the Drivers' Championship, and just really trying to maximize those bonus points when I can. I tried to stay out a bit longer on the pit cycle one time and try to get a lead lap bonus. Unfortunately, we didn't lead any laps tonight. Max stayed out. He foiled me there, and then Andy was so far ahead that when he pitted, he still came out in front of me. So that bonus point was out of reach. And first 5 laps, I really tried to take it easy and not push the car, and maybe get a clean race bonus and a little strip of green pavement. iRacing gives you a 1x for that. So it's just really about minimizing those kind of mistakes and just trying to maximize bonus points, because the competition is so close in the Karts to Computers Racing Series. And Andy and Logan and all the guys here are really tough competitors. Max, Justin, anybody has a shot to win. So you got to be on your A game, and we'll just see what happens at Daytona, and then hopefully Darlington, we can keep the tires under us. I learned getting beat on my birthday by Andy there with tire conservation that I need to do better at that. So we'll try to step up our game there and see what we got.
Sounds like a plan. And yeah, I mean, you talk about getting the best points finish you could today. I mean, you're second in all championship contenders tonight in terms of points. So best of luck going forward. I think, did you say you were possibly the championship leader there heading into the next round? And if that is the case, I mean, yeah, you got 2 NASCAR races ahead of you. So I like your chances the rest of the season. And well, it's up to you how well you finish off the year and maybe look for your first championship after coming so close last season. But as we do at the end of all of our interviews, it's time for, shout outs, sponsors. It's just your time, whatever you'd like to talk about.
Yeah, I'd like to first shout out to Logan for getting the fastest lap of the race by 2 1/1000ths faster than Andy. So that's above the point. That could have major championship implications. So hats off to those guys for just being a step above and putting down the hot laps there. I'm not sure if we're leading the championship. I think Logan might still be ahead by just a little bit because he led a lot of laps tonight and had that bonus. So it'll be really close to the top of the board heading to Daytona, which is a wild card race. So we'll see how that all shakes out. Got to thank HPP Simulation, Clipping That Apex, Thumbs Up Cancer Down, Ready to Frag, Fleximation Systems, Sim Racing Apps, Host Venom, CJ Automotive, Amsoil by Adam Blattle, and Spotlights Visual Spotter System. And I also have to thank Sim Racing Merch and the DMLC Racing Channel, 2 new sponsors that we're adding to our roster, and they'll be appearing on our cars soon once we get our paints updated.
Awesome. Well, sounds like a plan. And yeah, you're doing said new sponsors proud tonight. It's coming to bring that Dallara i18 home for a 3rd place performance, especially in a race with as much talent as the rest of the guys had, and how much work Andrew and Logan put in to finish ahead of one of them. I'd imagine is a pretty good feeling. So hopefully a good way to end your week heading into next Friday's race and giving you another off week. But well, have a great rest of your weekend. And I'm not sure if you're still working away there at the real life karting races and events like that, but best of luck with those. And congratulations on what you've been doing the last couple of weeks. I've been seeing the updates. So successful in real life, successful in iRacing, and yeah, looking forward to seeing how you end off the season, Michael.
Yeah, thanks, Marshall. We got 3rd place the first run. We finished second in our second race, but we unfortunately had a post-race penalty there, finished 3rd again. Hopefully next weekend we're back in action right after Daytona next Saturday. At Mosport again. Hopefully we can get top step of the podium for Team Generation Speed.
Well, best of luck, and yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing the update on that. So yeah, just have a great rest of your night, Michael. Have a great rest of your weekend, and we'll see you next Friday at Daytona.
Thanks, buddy. Thanks for broadcasting and putting on the series. It's been a lot of fun this summer.
And then to round off your first interview of the night, we now go to Andrew Bedrosian, and I know that sometimes the interviews can be a little long, so I'll try to speed them along and make sure everybody can go enjoy the rest of their Friday night. But now we're going to head off to your second interview of the night with, the guy who came just milliseconds away from winning the race there, and I believe 0.02 of a second, Michael said, from getting the fastest lap tonight, Mr. Andrew Bedrosian. Hey, Andrew, it's Marshall in the booth. You got me?
Hello?
Hey, well, first of all, congratulations there, man. I know coming into the last couple laps, maybe second isn't the way you would have liked to end it there. But, well, first of all, do you just kind of want to talk us through those last couple corners? I know Max was putting on a good charge, and you and Logan had the incident a couple laps before. So the little bit of damage you had there, how much was that affecting you the last couple of laps? And just kind of walk us through what happened there in the final couple of turns.
Yeah, so, I mean, you guys might think this is funny. Like when you downshift, you actually have to pull back the panels to upshift and downshift. And the last lap was really intense. So on the last corner, I actually downshifted and accidentally pulled off my wheel from the desk. So that was a bit scary going about 130 and almost into a wall. But yeah, like with Logan and I, we had a pretty good, well, I mean, we didn't have much of a battle. We had a battle at the end, but I was pretty much in a commanding lead for most of the race. But pretty much, like right when I hit my left front wing, it actually improved the acceleration out of the corkscrew, because I could get a really great run out of the corkscrew. It wasn't my car wasn't faster around faster corners with the bent front wing, but it definitely gave me a pretty good run on Paxa. I was pretty much faster in all the spots on the track. He didn't have a lot of practice time. I know his power got shut off yesterday, so I think he only got about 2 hours of practice before this race. So I mean, not bad for 2 hours of practice. But yeah, so I try to sneak on the inside because he wasn't quite covering that inside line right out of the corkscrew for the left-hander down the hill. So I tried to actually go there. I mean, I thought it definitely was going to work, but I think I might have just tapped his wheel. If not, it was probably just netco. But pretty much it just spun us both around. He got a better recovery, but I think he hit a cone or something, and it got stuck in his front wing. It's just connection type thing. Not much you could do about it after it happens. But we caught up pretty fast to him. I had enough time to turn around before Max got to me, and then I don't know if it was on purpose what Logan was trying to do, but he did try to cut across the corkscrew. I don't know if he was trying to hit me for what I did to him, but he was unsuccessful at his attempt. And I mean, basically through the last couple of laps, I was thinking I could get that win. I was faster on the gas. I could just get on the gas a lot faster than anybody in the field today. And that came out to being a pretty good advantage. But yeah, I mean, last lap, last corner, just, I mean, Max was telling me he was on the push to pass. And I mean, it didn't really do much because it's not a long straightaway. But just bad, not bad equipment, but just mistake on my part.
Well, speaking, Andrew, of heading out of tonight's race, I mean, coming away with second place points and the chaotic race you had, I mean, it was a battle of attrition truly for the top couple of guys. But I mean, my other question would just be, heading into the last couple of races of the season, going to both Daytona and Darlington from a NASCAR Cup Series perspective. I mean, your only win in the series has come at Pocono, and it's a discipline that you've had a ton of success in this year. So heading into Daytona, which Michael himself called kind of a wild card, what's your confidence in your second ever super speedway race in our series? And then heading into Darlington, a race that is largely about tire management. How are you feeling for the final two, and what's your mindset going forward?
Mindset, just basically keeping our head down. We're not out of the woods yet. We really just have to keep going because this was one of 3 races. Still, I think I'm in the lead. I'll have to ask Michael after this, but basically, it is a wild card race at Daytona. Anything can happen. If you have a car that's running, you have a chance to win. It's nothing to do with skill, really. Like, I mean, you have to know drafting technique and how big your car is and know if you can fit your car into a draft train line. It's really just going to come down to not pit strategy, but who you pit with. If you are pitting with a group, you have a bigger chance to get a win, because if you pit by yourself, there's no draft to pick you up, and everybody else is running about 20-30 miles per hour faster. So but heading into Darlington, I definitely feel very comfortable there. I'd love to win there because it's a really historical track in NASCAR. So just like tonight, it's a historical track in IndyCar, but hopefully it'll end up better at Darlington. But even with tire management, I mean, that was the name of the game at Pocono. It's just gonna basically come down to that.
Right, and in a tire management battle, I like your odds for sure. And yeah, really just the last 2 races, I think they play well in your skill set. And I mean, you got the team aspect right there behind you. I mean, Michael has worked well with you in the past even at Talladega to start the season. You just got a lot of LPM guys up front there with you, including 4 in the championship 6. So yeah, I like your chances the rest of the season, and I'm curious to see what you do going forward. But well, yeah, pretty much to round off the interview as we always do. Any shout outs you want to give to anybody at home, or any sponsors to shout out, or things like that?
Yeah, I do want to thank all my friends, family for watching this. I know I try to get a lot of people to watch, and it really does mean a lot for them to watch me. I want to thank Bedford School for sponsoring me, Buckland Billiards, Stainless Realtors, and JP West Photo.
Awesome. Well, you did said sponsors proud, and I hope everybody that was watching at home got a good taste of the Andrew Bedrosian experience, because you're one of the more talented guys in our series. And I mean, yeah, you're always a factor in the championship, the battle for the lead. Well, I guess now the championship lead as well. So, yeah, again, 2 races to go. You seem pretty confident heading in, and I'm curious to see 2 races that suit both yours and Michael's and even Devin's talents, for sure from the NASCAR perspective. But I think I can confirm Logan Pax is the current championship leader heading into those races. So I wouldn't count anybody out at this point. So I'm looking forward to seeing how you, it's going to be a toss up. So I'm looking forward to seeing how you thrive under pressure there, and how you do with the very talented guys we have left in our series. And overall, just have a great rest of your weekend, great rest of your week, and we will see you next Friday at Daytona.
All right. Bye.
With that, we finish off your second interview of the night with Andrew Bedrosian, a guy who, as always, he's a pretty confident guy in his abilities. And, he was about an incident away from a pretty, I wouldn't say a pretty straightforward battle, but he kind of, I don't know. The chaotic end of that race maybe made it a lot more complicated for the top couple of guys than it would have otherwise been. But, well, one guy who that chaos benefited was Mr. Max Preston, who will come away with the second win his first win in series history, his second podium in a row. Let's pull him into the booth now. Hey, Max is Marshall in the commentary booth. You got me?
Yep.
Well, first of all, Mr. Max, congratulations. 1 week off of when I was congratulating you on your first podium in the series. You come away and you gain 2 spots and you win the whole thing. Like, what? First of all, what's the feeling becoming the 8th ever driver in our series to win a race? And just what was the confidence out of last week, and did it in any way carry over to this week?
It feels great, Marshall. I mean, that this is it was a long and momentum-based race for sure. And the confidence level coming into this weekend was really interesting, because I was actually doing a lot of practice sessions for the official one of the official iRacing Dallara F3 series. And so it's actually running at Laguna this week as well. So I was doing tons and tons and tons of hours just lapping Laguna in an F3 car. So when I came into the IndyCar today, and was practicing and everything like that, the familiarity was there. I even said last week that I have some experience racing on Laguna, Seca, and other sims, and so I was really confident that this race was going to go well for me. Justin, my teammate, couldn't make it out tonight, so definitely I had to figure out my own strategy calls there, which for better or for worse, really. But as far as it goes, my main focus on this race was just just remain cool, remain calm, and make sure that we can come away with another podium. And lo and behold, 5 laps to go, we all bunched up, and that was setting the stage for my first win, which I feel really great about. It's an awesome feeling. It's such a hard series, such great drivers. To come away with a win today is really, really special, and it's something that is definitely going to play into the next couple of races and into next season, as well as my confidence builds in the series.
Yeah, I can certainly imagine, and I mean the 2 JM Motorsports guys, or I guess MJ Motorsports now. Congrats on that. But
that's right.
The 2 MJ Motorsports guys, back-to-back weeks, putting in their first wins in the series, and the confidence is, I'm sure, building. If Justin's able to make it back for the final 2 races, maybe you guys can get a draft in going at Daytona. But really, like talking about tonight, like coming into the last couple of laps, I mean, you were quick in the first stint. You had your moments, and I think you restarted one of the restarts second there. Like you had track position all day, but really the top 2 guys, I mean, talking to Andrew and Logan before the race, they had practiced all week in the IndyCar here. So I mean, their confidence coming in was immense. But once they had their incident there where they got together and had damage, like what was going through your head? What does it take to make it through an entire race where you're maybe 10 seconds back of the guys ahead of you? Like how hard were you still pushing? And when it finally happened, and I'm sure on your relative screen, you saw the guys getting closer and closer together, like what were the emotions there? And just kind of walk us through those last couple of laps.
Yeah, it was really quite an interesting race, because I qualified the race in third. I had good pace in practice, and so as the race got underway, I knew Logan and Bedrosian were quite fast, right? They obviously were quick at qualifying and in practice. So my main goal for this race was just to build enough of a gap from Michael Krobach, who was in fourth at the time, and make sure that I just focused on one thing, which is, it's a long race. It's over 50 laps long. And so I just focused on making sure I hit my marks, I stayed calm, collected, and just consistency through and through. And so it's actually funny that you say that, because, throughout the whole race, I was basically alone. Every now and then I'd click and show my distance ahead and distance behind. I'd see that, I had quite a comfortable gap between myself and Michael in fourth. And I also had an immense gap in front of me. And so I just made sure to just not make any mistakes, just remain consistent. I did the last, I think, 15, 20 laps are pretty much within a tenth or two of each other every single lap. And then with 5 laps to go or so, or around that point, I don't even know what lap it was. I actually didn't have my markers on. I didn't have my black box on. I didn't have anything. So I just came up and I got on my spotter, told me that there was a slow car ahead, and all of a sudden Bedrosian and Logan are there. Logan has pylons in his front wing. Bedrosian's front wing is in the air. Mine actually had a bit of damage to it. I think I clipped a curb a little bit too hard at one point. And so my main thing was trying to decide, do I have enough fuel to make it to the end of the race? And if I did have enough fuel, how much of that could I really push to actually, gain another position, or do I play it safe and remain in third and walk away with another podium today? It was really strategic, and myself saving fuel for the last couple of laps and just trying to, stay inside of Bedrosian's draft there and just, count the laps away coming up to the white flag.
And you kept the pressure on long enough and just kept your nose in there that, that final corner, Andrew just made a mistake on his own, and that was all it took. And I wasn't sure those last couple corners. I thought you had the side-by-side coming with 2 corners to go. I thought you might be able to get him up the inside, but once he cleared you, I thought it was all over. But I talked about it earlier in the broadcast. Sometimes you just gotta make a push and just be there and be somebody in the rearview mirror. I know currently, whenever I run in my series, I'm also running a USF 2000 series in the background. But whenever I've got somebody as close behind me in an open wheel series as that, there's always that worry in the back of your mind that you could slip up, and some guys don't, and some guys happen to, like Andrew did tonight. So, tonight you hit all the right buttons those last couple of laps, and you did exactly what you had to, and it's a very deserved win for sure. And I find whenever we have guys getting first wins or making milestones for themselves, it's always the most difficult ways to do so, and you picked one of the toughest road courses on iRacing to get your first win at. So great pick for sure, and it's a pleasure to have you as the winner. So I'll just ask, heading into next week, we go to Daytona for the second to final round, and then we go to Darlington to end off the season. I know you've definitely had way more pace at the road courses, and I know the ovals are kind of taken over by a few of the LPM guys most of the season. But what's your confidence like heading into Daytona if you're able to get Justin back out and get some teamwork going there? Basically, just what's your thoughts on the 2 NASCAR races to end off the season, and do you think this will be the last time we're talking to you in the commentary booth the rest of the year?
It's a great question, because obviously the road courses are what I have with the most experience on, both in real both in my actual racing career outside of sim racing, and also as well in iRacing here. And so as far as the ovals are concerned, certainly myself as a driver, I'll always do my best to find speed, to gain positions, gain momentum. The ovals historically have been a bit of a tough spot for me, because I this is honestly the first year I've actually driven on any ovals. But certainly the third place last week, the first position this week, certainly has gotten the confidence back, and certainly going into the next the final 2 races. Definitely, I've put a bigger focus on practicing. I've put a bigger focus on consistency. And so I'm trying to actually run some oval tracks. I'm trying to test at them, do some other series, and just sort of drop in and out of a couple hosted sessions to make sure that I actually get that experience, because, the guys in the series are so fast. That's one thing I love telling everybody, is that, this is one of the most competitive series. This is really reminds me of racing, racing shifter karts, Las Vegas, with 40 guys in the group where the top 5 are within a tenth of each other. That's exactly what we've got here. And so, going into those final 2 races, I'll certainly be putting my head down, making sure I'm testing, making sure I'm getting my notes together, looking at the data, making sure I can get a strategy for next week, because certainly this finale here at Laguna Seca, with Andy and I going flying off the end of the track there on the last corner, definitely, it's quite a special thing. So, looking at my fuel, I decided on that last lap there that I had just enough fuel to make a run for it. So that's where we hit the push to pass in the very last corner there. We both went flying off the end of the track, and I'm just really happy that my patience on the throttle and my patience getting back on track there off the sand, all of that is indicative of the practice I was doing this week, and certainly I'll be bringing that same methodical process to testing and practicing for the races next week at the Ovals. And hopefully, Marshall, you and I could be speaking again here in the commentary booth. And definitely, I don't want this to be the final time you and I speak, and certainly it won't be the last time that we speak about myself getting on top of the podium here. So really excited to have Justin back next week, and it should be a great race.
Well, with the methodical approach you're talking about taking, I like my chances that this won't be the last time I talk to you. As I think so many of the championship guys, maybe they just get too focused about their rivals and the guys are battling for points. And tonight, I even came in, I was like, hey, which championship guy is going to come away with the win? And you shocked them all and said, none of that. I'm putting myself on the top spot. So, well, best of luck with your preparations for next week. I'm really looking forward to seeing what you do again. And yeah, somewhere deep down, I have the feeling that this won't be the last time I talk to you either. So best of luck with preparation for that. And as we always do at the end of our interviews, I mean, you did it last week as the third place finisher, but tonight is your first kind of victory circle, special mentions section. So feel free to shout out whoever you'd like.
Yeah, absolutely. Marshall, first and foremost, I got to thank you and the rest of the series organizers. I mean, this is a phenomenal series. It certainly, I've never sweat so much before, especially this race here was a real tough one. So I have to thank you for putting on an amazing show as always, because this is a phenomenal series, and the streams afterwards that I watch every single one, and it's just monumental, what the series has done and yourself. So thank you very much. As well, I'd always have to thank my family, my supporters, my mom and dad, Gabriella and Michael Preston, and my sister Jenna Preston as well. Finally, my fiance Alyssa Rizzo, she's watching up north, about 2 hours away from where I am right now. So thank you very much for watching. The Rizzo family as well is always a special mention for them. And finally, Justin, I was actually texting him, waiting in the driver's room, and he's going crazy right now that I won the race and he wasn't even around for it. So I got to thank Justin. I got to thank everybody else. And finally, special shout out to my sponsors for tonight, New Speed Motorsports. Certainly I'll be looking at upgrading my rig and making sure that I get the full support of them as always. And it's just really great to have a band of racers here all supporting myself and supporting MJ Motorsports as it continues its way through the series. But I gotta thank all the competitors tonight, my family, my fiance and her family, as well as Justin, and finally New Speed Motorsports. So thanks, Marshall, for putting on a great show as always, and it was really fun tonight, and definitely look forward to talking with you again in the commentary booth.
Well, thanks to you as well, Max. You've made the last couple races a ton of fun, and I'm glad that, earlier in the season you were bound out of a couple races early. So the fact that you've got it together, you're making it out to every race, and it feels like everyone you finish on the podium. So, again, you've had a great last couple of races, and you're always a pleasure to talk to in the booth. So I look forward to doing it again. And yeah, just generally you and Justin are very well spoken. You're really quick, and yeah, I'm sad that he couldn't be here tonight. It would have been kind of nice to have a little MJ Motorsports moment there at the end, but overall it's just an absolute pleasure to have you. And shout out to everybody at home for watching. It's always a pleasure to have as many viewers as possible, especially to witness fun end of race battles like that. So it was a pleasure to have you. Have a great rest of your week. Looking forward to seeing you next week at Daytona, and I'm sure we'll have to talk in the future, because even when this season's over, you seem like the kind of guy I'd want to race with off season. Just throw maybe some F3 events together or something like that. It'd be a pleasure.
Hey, absolutely, Marshall. It's certainly like Andy Bedrosian, Logan Paxa, Michael Krobach, Justin. I mean, you and all the rest of the guys are extremely quick, extremely fast, and it's part of the reason why I've picked up speed lately is just from racing in the series. So, yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much again, Marshall. And next time I get the checkered flag in first place, I'll make sure to have enough fuel to do some donuts for camera, because this time I tried to do it and I ran out of fuel at the end. So. But thanks again.
Yeah, no problem. I was going to say, I was kind of wondering, you looked like you were swerving, getting ready for him, and I never saw him, and I was like, what happened there? But yeah, I didn't even consider fuel. So, well, hopefully next time. Right. Looking forward to him.
Thanks, Marshall. Take care.
Yeah, you too. Well, with that, we will finish off your final interview of the night. And for the second week in a row, I got the honors of interviewing a first-time winner in our series. So the question is, though, next week, are we going to see a third different new winner in a row? I mean, Rich Foligno was so close at Talladega earlier this year, and he's got a great teammate, a very experienced NASCAR driver, and Michael Krobach alongside him. So it's anybody's guess who's gonna win at Daytona, and it'll be a pleasure to have a wildcard race as that to be the penultimate round of our season. But first of all, be very sure to try to recruit as many guys as possible, because the best NASCAR super speedway races are the ones with as many cars as possible. So even if it's just a couple of guys stopping by, maybe some old faces making their return, I'm just going to try to get as many guys out as possible. So I'll start recruiting as soon as tonight. But there's your final race results. I never go over them again. So Max Preston, of course, your race winner for the first time in series history, second podium in a row. And again, it's a real shame that he's not here in the championship 6, because damn, I think the way he's been able to throw the last couple of races together, I think he'd be a guy that could compete for a title. But well, first of all, thank you to everybody watching at home. I mean, for some races like this, I mean, I'm going to sympathize, be very real. I mean, when you come into a race with only 8 guys in tonight's case, as talented as they are, I mean, we have a great group of guys that shows up every week, and I'm so glad that over the week since the start of the year, when we started off with about 15 guys. I mean, let's not forget we had like 22 guys for our season opener last year at Indy, but. I mean, yeah, as we get further and further and guys start getting busier and busier with real life commitments. I mean, it's so nice that we've had some of the top guys and the most responsible sportsman-like quick guys in our series stick around. And, it's overall, it's been a pleasure to have them, and it's a pleasure to have all of you watching at home. So whenever you get an invite from anybody and they invite you to come out and watch, it's always a pleasure to have you guys out. And, even if it's just stopping by when you see the broadcast popping up, I've never said it before, but feel free to hit the subscribe button if you want to know whenever we go live, even when this season's done and possibly the series in its current iteration as a whole. Whenever I have future commitments and we get some more guys, we recruit some more faces, we switch it up a little bit, maybe stick to one car specifically for a new series. When any of that comes out and we get everything reset up and ready to go, I'll be posting updates on the YouTube, and I'll be telling anybody in the series that it's going on, so that they can all what's the word? Relay it to those at home. So overall, just thank you everybody for watching once again. I know tonight, and sometimes tonight it turns into a little bit of a podcast when guys spread out a little bit, and I'm trying to think of talking points just to tie everything together until we see battles like we did at the end with Preston and Paxa and Bedrosian. So overall, it's a pleasure to broadcast you guys tonight. 2 more races left in the season, and likely in the Karts Computer Series as a whole. But it's been a pleasure to have you guys. Can't wait to crown a champion in the last 2 weeks. Again, I genuinely don't know which of the top 4 guys it could be at this point. So I can't wait. It's been a great couple of weeks, and these always give me something to look forward to through the week. So thank you everybody once again for watching. I look forward to seeing you guys all next Friday at the same time, 7:55 at Daytona International Speedway for the second super speedway race of the season and the second to last of the Karts Computers Racing Series second season, where tonight we ran at Laguna Seca. Mazda WeatherTech. Is it Mazda? I know our logo says Mazda. I think it might just be WeatherTech Raceway at Laguna Seca now. But wherever we are, thank you all for watching, and it's been a pleasure. So have a great rest of your week. We'll see you next week at Daytona. And that's all for me. See ya.